egotistical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome, everybody, on in to the Saturday Night Network for our Season 49 Postseason Roundtable, here to talk about all the biggest moments from the last few months of Saturday Night Live. My name is John from the SNN. Very pumped to be with you on this Monday, even into the summer, as we close the book on one season and we'll start to look ahead to the next one here tonight. We are, of course, here as a presentation of LateNighter.com, and we have a great crew with us tonight to wrap up the season and talk about its biggest moments. The same group that got together last season to wrap up season 48. So I'm happy to do this 2 years in a row with all of you. So a guy who's been with us from the very beginning, Rich Tackenberg, is here. Rich, how are you?
Bittersweet. I'm excited to be here, but also bummed that this is the last time we'll all get to chat until season 50. But I am good.
Yes. Are you ready to enter hibernation mode?
Yes. After this, I basically disappear and I don't talk to anybody. I don't think anything. I don't expound on any theories. I just stare at a wall until the premiere of season 50.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be staring at, many things, looking forward to 50. So I'm very, very excited to talk to you tonight, Rich. And of course, somebody who always brings the fun is Amanda Mitchell. Amanda, welcome to the show tonight.
Yo, what's good? What's happening? CJ, calm down. I wasn't that loud. He just wasn't expecting it from me. Hi, John. How are you?
Hi, Amanda. I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm ready to go into like a solid even numbered season. I'm ready to just like get rid of a prime number. It's not a prime number. Is it a prime number?
Is that a thing? Are SNL season, like our even numbered SNL seasons, known to be?
No, an episode.
Wasn't that Star Trek movies back in the day?
Yeah,
like a theory. I would listen to that whole episode about that theory though, about whether or not the even or odd SNL seasons are better.
Yeah, tell that to season 6, season 20. So
free content. Anyway, happy to be here. I also did not know that it was the four of us last year, and that's how flat time has been. I like when you said that, I was like, what are you talking about? But I'm thrilled to be here.
We're the cleanup crew. We come in, we clean up the season.
TJ, us? Wow, no, love it.
Yeah, our head custodian TJ is here as well. TJ, how are you?
First of all, that opinion was trash. Head custodian. Well, you know what? If that means I'm going to be like Mr. Johnson from Abbott Elementary, that's a kind thought, because he's out there repping it for custodians everywhere. But Jonathan, I'm well. I have dropped off my partner at the train station after celebrating my birthday and Memorial Day weekend, I'm happy to be here. Just got done recording some episodes of my own podcast, so I'm very done with sitting at my desk. I want to get over this. I want to get through this. I'm not rushing it. I'm happy to be here. Just know that my ass is in this chair because I love you, John. Also, bro, I had no idea we did the same thing last year. Rich, was it just me? Did you remember either?
I hadn't the slightest idea. I will say, when I got the note who it was going to be, I was like,
I've seen them before.
I was like, it's a fun line.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm excited.
It'll be a thing. Maybe we'll do this every year.
Now we got to do this next year. It's going to be a thing.
Yeah, I'm excited because you know what? We're on the precipice of something incredible. 50 years of a comedy titan. Something that's blessed us over and over and over exponentially. It has blessed the world with laughs. And we're here to just wrap up the end and talk about how much I dislike Dakota Johnson's episode. But other than that, it is going to be merry. It is going to be good. And I'll be honest, even though that episode did have like 2 good things, like the roast. But I'm happy to be here, John.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have you too. I'm happy to have all of you here and everybody live with us in the chat. And this is certainly an interactive show. So we want to get your thoughts throughout the evening while TJ has his ass in the chair, just to talk through all of the different moments of this season. And, like TJ said, there's so much to think about when it comes to season 50 coming up. But before you get to 50, as Jake Gyllenhaal said, you got to talk about season 49. So we're going to do that tonight. We're going to go through all of the moments from this past season. And really what I ask of the panel and everybody in the chat is to think about a little bit how people will look back on season 49. Right now, we're living in the, in the timeline. We're here in the present, but I'm very curious in the future when people look back 5, 10, 15 years down the road, what will they think of the season? What will be the moments that they remember? And let's start by talking about some of the major themes and takeaways from this season. It all started back in October when we weren't sure if the season was going to return at all. There was a strike going on. There were multiple strikes going on, actor strike, writer strike. And really, it was a unique time in SNL history. We've seen this before, but maybe not to this extreme, not in the digital age. And, the season sort of just jump started very quickly. And all of a sudden, it was like, hey, in a week's time, you got to be ready to go. And I'm curious from all of you if you think that affected the season now that we are, at the finish line of this thing, looking back on it. What's your thoughts?
No, I don't think it did. I mean, I think that this is the gorgeous thing about SNL, very much to what TJ was just saying, is like, it's an institution. I mean, they have rolled with everything. We've seen every permutation, and that's, we've always known about SNL is that Lorne highly discourages people from trying to write material over the summers, that they write something over the summer, they read it and they're like, this is going to kill. They bring it to the first week and it just dies. And there is something about, no matter, you can tell this team on a Sunday, hey, the show's coming back start on Monday, and it's just go. I think the fact that we didn't have a lot of people leave, we added one person. It wasn't a lot of new ads. I think it was a smart way to just like, let's just pick up where we left off. Let's get Pete Davidson in. So we had an alumni hosting the show, so nobody had to kind of like learn as the whole crew was getting up to speed. But no, I think to me, it's one of the great testaments of this show is it's just like, all right, let's go, let's do this. And they did it.
Yeah, that's one of those things, Amanda, that I think I'm going to think about for when I look back at 48 and 49 is that despite the strike, it really sort of was like one big season in a way, because we just added Chloe Troast, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the writing staff stayed completely the same. Season 47 and 48 has such a different feel to them because of all the departures. But did this season feel any different to you, and your thoughts on how maybe, starting with the strike and how that affected the season overall?
Okay, as a writer and knowing how the rules of like the Writers Guild works, it is a little bit hard to get that muscle going. If you've like, not only can you not do it, you can't do it like on a professional level. Like you just can't do it. It's like a muscle that you have to do. And so I think, especially starting off this season, they really relied, think about the Bad Bunny episode, just relied on pretty much stunt casting to get through it. And I think that there was a lot of things where they wanted to do more, and they did do more, but it always felt like a little bit delayed. It felt like because they were already delayed coming into the season, like everything else was like, oh, we have to catch up already to get to this point where we would have already discussed certain things in pop culture maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago if we had been on. But I think in general, this is right now as a unit, this season where I feel like now we're seeing being all of the cast as a unit work really strongly for the first time, I think, in a really long time. In episodes where it's like everyone, it's like, okay, not somebody was like, I'm to sneeze. I'll get there. But like, it's just one of those things where I think the unit, the cast as an encapsulation as a unit, this season was finally getting, okay, there was things happening that were interesting, and they're all seemed like a really big support system. And maybe that's because they had to kind of rush back together and they didn't have the time to be at summer camp. They just had to go, immediately back to work, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
sorry. I just want to push on something that Amanda just went to. I hadn't even thought of until you brought it up. What a freaking flex of this group that after being off and thrown back in on their second week, they consciously chose to bring in someone, a musical guest, to do double duty, who's not an actor, for whom English is not his first language.
I will commend this season on the gambles they
coming
took.
back from the show. They didn't even save him for episode 18. That is a flex.
That is,
Yeah.
and I will give them credit. They did it also as a unit. I feel like this season took way more gambles in terms of and I think that's the point I was trying to make before, but I was distracted.
Great
by
point.
The sneeze
Did I
that
love the
was
Bad Bunny
impending.
episode? No, but great flex for trying.
Yeah, I will say I want to get TJ's opinion on this because I feel like I'm more on the side of what Amanda said than what Rich said, respectfully, which is that I do believe that despite what anyone in the building may tell you, momentum is a major factor in quality of SNL seasons. SNL can get on hot streaks and they can get on cold streaks. And I think that there was a point in the season in the spring where they got on a hot streak. And I feel like 48 had a major hot streak between, the end of the fall to the beginning of the spring. And they may have, started to like capture that momentum again. And due to the strike and that break, that may have halted the momentum. So I know that every week we're supposed to, start fresh and pick up. But I can't imagine that having such a long break and then not being into the normal routine, not being able to, be in projects throughout the summer, relying on stand-up, not being able to book and really even talk about Saturday Night Live. I remember being at Just for Laughs last summer. PDD was there. They couldn't mention SNL. There were people on the red carpet we could talk to. We can't even say the show's name. Like it was a crazy summer going into the year. So I feel like it did have an effect on the start of the season.
John, for you to say that though, I would ask this. Tell me the season premiere of SNL that fucking killed it in the last 15 years. I don't think you can point to one. I don't think that is I don't think it's in the history of SNL, at least in the last 20 years, that they've come out of the gate just crushing it. It's just not the nature of SNL. Okay.
I'll give you one. Seth MacFarlane with Frank Ocean, 2013.
Okay. All right, fair enough. And we're going back 11 years.
Yeah,
and ironically, I said in the last
the only
10,
one.
So
yeah.
I also
Big
thought of
episode.
an additional very hot take.
Ooh, bring it on.
How much of the strength of the season is the fact that on 1/5 of the episode, they had to rely on an alumni to host it?
Yeah, I mean that to me is an interesting thing, which I'd like to get to in a moment. Which is like the host booking choices, which I think were fascinating this season.
I just want to see how long we can go before we let TJ get his comment in.
Yeah,
I just feel like this is our time.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna get before we turn it over.
I want to say this just to the crew that's here tonight. Like, I know I'm guiding the discussion, but like, if this show more than any, interrupt because I really do want to make.
Oh, really, John?
Yeah, I know. I really do feel that way because, this is like the time to really just like hash it out. Like, what do we think of this season? So, anyways, look, that was what I want to talk about with the start of the season. TJ, I'd love to know if you have any comments about that. If not, we'll transition over to some of the changes we saw and the host booking decision. So let me know what your thoughts are.
So first and foremost, I appreciate that note about interrupting because I feel like you're speaking to me specifically because I don't interrupt for joy. I interrupt out of excitement. I never do it to be rude. I do it because I enjoy doing this so much, even if my castmates secretly hate me. I understand it. I fully get it. But shit. Bro, what's the question again?
And that is the sum up of TJ for season 49. What was the question again?
Yeah. So are we? Is the question about the specific themes of the season?
We're talking about the major themes of season 49. I really want to think about like what people will look back on. And I said like, look, I think the strike did have an impact on things. I was curious your opinion on that. We also brought up, in just to start the conversation, the addition of Chloe Troast, some of the host booking decisions. So we're going to dive into that a little bit further in the next few minutes. But where do you want to take this discussion, TJ?
Well, I'll answer the piece that was kind of already gone, and then if you want to cue everyone to themes, we can go into that because I think we all have lots of different little things that we picked up on. But if just specifically like close out the notice about the writer strike and the impact, how do I say this? I'm gonna talk about the cold opens, specifically one, a little bit later, and I bring that up because there's something about a cold open I just rewatched recently that kind of hit me that made me wonder if it caused everyone to reset. I feel like they did not show a ton of. I'm not saying that start out of the gate was excellent. I actually think those first 5 episodes, I think they were all good and they were fine. Like I kind of am like middle of the line with a lot of them. But the reason I'm saying that is because
Bargatze, you're saying Nate Bargatze was mid.
No, I'm not. No. To me, mid is something that's bad, that's basic but bad.
Oh, you're saying middle, like
middle of the line
season. Fair enough.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah. No, not mid is in like basic, but like in a bad way, like a Karen. The thing I was trying to like note was that like maybe it was, you know, it's so tough is maybe it's my own bias and excitement of SNL just coming back in the first place that like the writer's strike, I'm gonna be honest, and I don't know if this happened with anybody else. It wasn't until we were thinking about this roundtable, and it's like it might have been on John and Rich's mind a little bit more. But and I know that Amanda writes, but like we are in different industries. Like, you know, like I know Amanda's your industry might touch in the entertainment a little bit. Mine's doesn't at all. I'm very much in the corporate space. Um, the thing that caught me is that like I realized well into the season, I forgot about the writer's strike. Now I know the actors didn't. That was a big, huge hit to them. You know, we got things like Strike Force 5 and whatnot. But like in terms of it having a shadow on the season, I don't think it did. Like maybe it caused everyone to stumble a little bit in the first couple episodes, but even then, I feel like Pete coming in sort of relaxed everyone a little bit. You know, I know that he has a very like charismatic way about him. I didn't feel like the strike, except for I think there was like a Fran Drescher sketch, and there was a couple of sketches. Like there was imprints there, but as opposed to like, did it like create a bad wave over the entire season or? I don't think it did because I kind of forgot about it, but I don't know if that's because I'm not in the entertainment space. I do this podcast, but even then, I forgot about it. It wasn't a main takeaway.
I don't think it cast a shadow over the season. I think it's the things that you can't see behind the scenes. Like I said, like SNL is like, it's a machine and like everything has to click to get the great SNL episodes. Like everything has to fall into place and you need a little luck even on top of that. And I do think that, you know, when you just things start to shake a little bit, and not everybody is in place, you know, and especially, you know, there was writers who were pregnant, there was people who were traveling around the world, and all of a sudden it's like get to work in 10 days and we're back into motion. Like, you know, I do compare it to sports a little bit where sometimes athletes are on strike and all of a sudden they have to get into game shape and it's like, oh, whoa. So to me, there was something there. And I think that I bring it up, not because it's something you'll see on screen on SNL, but I do think that over time, it's a note that people should remember from the season. Let's touch on Chloe Troast, who is our new addition that came into the cast this season. Our only new addition, which, you know, we've added some new players. It really feels like a new generation of cast members over the last few years. But Chloe was that one extra spice that they added to the mix. And when she was booked on the show, the, you know, indication was, okay, well, she's really good friends with Please Don't Destroy, so she'll probably be in a lot of their sketches. I don't think she was in any, if at all. So you know, it's interesting. And then she slowly did start to find her place on the show, clearly has roles where she's performing and singing. And then I do wonder if she got lost in the mix at some point. We could bring up a cold open that sincerely, you know, had an effect on her. But I'd love to know, like, how do we feel like the addition of Chloe Troast had an effect on season 48? TJ, since you went last on the first round, let's go with you first.
I have such a, you know, what's so funny is I remember like Aristotle Atari like mania that like really happened to like the SNL like community, and I feel so differently with Chloe Troast, where I absolutely adore her. I wouldn't say it's 100% defined like why I adore her. Whereas with Aristotle, I was just became a big fan of little things that I saw. You were kind of rooting for this underdog. Chloe Troast hasn't had to have that experience. She's very much so like she got the spotlight with the singing, right? Like that was like, okay, cool. She found her niche early. Good. Like, okay, this means we can do this for you while we sort of build you up. And while people are building you up, it's like, oh, Chloe, could you do this little piece for us? Could you do this little piece for us? Could you play like notice like Chloe Troast has played a lot of like women in old timey sketches. Like that's been a thing. Like just in the most recent sketch, she was playing like the popcorn or like I can't remember the sketch. It was Jake Gyllenhaal, the Beautiful Boys. She was playing like just like a wait staff or something for like 2 seconds. But like something about putting Chloe Troast in like a pinup style, like that's another go-to they've been able to do for her. I think about her specifically in the sketch with it was J.A.J. Dismukes. And Dismukes, JJ's arguing with someone, and it's go-karts. And it might have been Mikey Day.
No, it was JJ there as well.
Oh, you know, it was JJ, and there was a sketch where it was JJ and someone else. I can't remember who the host was.
Kristen.
Thank you. Yes, they're clearly about to have a divorce, and there's a moment where, like, minute and a half into the sketch, and Chloe doesn't have a lot of lines in it, but they cut to Troast and she has like this big shock expression on her face, which I think visually for me was like a really fun little piece of it. But she's had this niche where she's been playing the kid in a sketch, so they can cue her if they need somebody to sing. She's one of the people like Dismix that's gonna be like one of the young people they do, like her and like Chloe like Fineman are gonna be, and they have her doing this old timey thing. 3 things that SNL can kind of touch on like a lot, which is very generic. Like the reason I bring that up is because I think we found little spots for her to still just be in the show. The show does not feel like, with the exception maybe of, I don't know what happened with Michael Longfellow in the B side of the season, but the show hasn't really felt like it's pushing people out. And it feels like there is a spot for everyone versus what we dealt with just, what was it, a year and a half now or 2 years now since the big exodus?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, I was at the end of season 47.
Gosh, you believe that it's been 2 years since like Davia Senor, Alex Moffat, everyone else like that? That's crazy, right? So
yeah,
with Troast, the addition of her feels like, for me, this real cementation of a new era. I felt it very similarly last year, but it was more of them transitioning. Whereas this year, with like the addition of that new kid, like there's something that really cements it, that it's really like a new era that we're in. And I just want to say, like, I love that she found her skill. I think she still has plenty to show us, but I don't feel that this is a Lauren Holt, Luke Knoll type of situation, because she's been in nearly every episode in some small little bit part. She's at least been, we've seen her face like show up. So I'm honestly, I'm really rooting for her.
She was shut
okay.
up for one episode, but honestly, I don't think that and I don't think panel, like we don't think she's like,
no,
she's gonna make
not at all.
Yeah, there's no indication that she wouldn't be. Amanda, do you feel like she's found her place in this group?
I think of okay.
I just want to say she's found a place.
Yes,
sorry,
she's found a place, but I think it's very interesting because we've seen some freshman years come out the gate and you're like, absolutely whatever, like, you know, that person clearly is geared for stardom. In her case, I think she is so good right where she is, and I don't mean that as an insult. I think that she's like it, like when I going back to my point earlier about this ensemble feeling the tightest it's been in a very long time, there's no real loose ends, and she fits a box and a trope that's needed in this current cast. And it just feels like when she's there, she's always delivering. Like she does, like you can tell she's really taking her chances, and like they really want to take a chance on her. They are like I don't know how else to describe it other than like I feel comfortable when she's there. Which sounds so romantic and sweet, but it's like I just feel like I'm happy for Chloe Troast, and I'm happy that she's had an incredible first season, and that clearly she's in good hands, and that these people are investing in her, because seeing that means I'm going to invest in her, because clearly that's the way it's going to go. We've seen them, and she just kind of like felt lived in, I guess is the way I'm trying to say it. Like it's, you know, like she showed up and I was like, great, cool. It's not quite Kenan level of like like if you show Kenan's there, we're probably gonna get greatness. Like Chloe, it's like, cool, I'm ready to see what you're gonna do. Yeah.
The kid's got the juice. All right.
Exactly.
She's gonna be big. She's gonna be huge. Yeah. She's gonna be the biggest thing in Hollywood since sliced bread.
She's a celebrity.
She's very talented. Clearly has a lot of skills. But as far as her SNL ceiling is concerned, Rich, do you have a gauge of like where we might see Chloe go in the next few years on the show?
For me, I'd say it's too early to say, you know, and to touch on like what Amanda said, you know, we're in a time where, you know, what we're comparing her to, many of us compare her to, is just recent memory, season 45, Bowen right out of the gate, Chloe right out of the gate, 47, JAJ comes on, Trump kills it. The first episode of the season premiere of his very first show, Sarah Sherman kills it. 48, Marcello is fantastic. Devin Walker's fantastic. Michael Longfellow is killing it. You know, Chloe did not have that year, But remember that those other seasons are the anomalies in SNL. That is not usually how featured players come on. The other thing that is different about season 49 is we didn't lose cast members. She was not filling a vacuum the way that Devin or Molly or Michael Longfellow or Shower were. She was simply an addition to an already established unit that was working really well. So to me, I think about Andrew Dismuke's first year, which was like moments of like, well, okay, I don't get it. And then other moments of like, oh, that's interesting. And it could go either way. Same way. I remember Edie Bryant sat on the sideline her first year for most of the season. She was like practically an extra. And then there'd be one or two moments where you go, oh, that's the note that she plays. Oh, I haven't heard that note in a while. So I'm not really sure. I think it could go either way. I mean, there's no reason why I would ever expect her to leave the show, but I'm not yet sure where she's going to fit into the larger cast member as she grows into a full cast member.
But Rich, I think there's something that's Rich, I think there's something that's beautiful about like the anomaly of the JJ of like the we need to find a name for like the four SNL kids, like the Devin, the Sarahs. Like we need to find like a name for them. Oh no, not Sarah. Sorry, Devin and whoever in the ham sandwich, Devin Longfellow, and y'all know what I'm trying to say.
The feature player.
Thank you. No, I don't know. Maybe there's like a cool hip name. It doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is the cool thing about the anomaly is that's been pretty relevant since, like season 40, since like 2015. Or since like Bowen came in, basically. But that's
Bowen was season 45. Yeah, I think that was the first time where we saw. To me, it's almost like being a child prodigy. You're just like right out of the gate, young kid, new, and you're just playing at such a high level. And most, some prodigies kind of burn out and they fade into the background, and then they become standard elder statespeople of the show, and others continue to, then, certainly you had, Kate McKinnon came out, just burned it, and then ultimately was there so long that ultimately I think a lot of us got, a little bit burned out on the music she was playing on the show.
Yeah. And I guess like the cool thing that feels like there is a new trend, like since Bowen and Chloe sort of came in, that feels like there is a new trend of like us seeing these feature players just a little bit more, especially for like these past two classes. I feel like there was much more of a case made to like, it is odd that it's an anomaly. And I would love to know over the history, have we seen our feature players have seasons like this, like a JAJ, like a Troast, where like, oh, we still see them pop up. Like we at least like know their names rather than being like, wait a minute, who is that cast member? And so I wonder if it's like a positive trend for them that maybe you get a chance to see a little bit more of the person that was like hired in their actual first year. That might be an interesting.
But I don't even think it's the first year, TJ. I think it's the beginning of the first year. I think that they seem to be like really pushing the new cast members at the first half of their first season to let the audience get to know them, and then there's a drop off. And I think a lot of us have credited or the potential drop off of Troast to her replacing Cecily in that anti-Semitism testimonies cold open during the Adam Driver episode, and then there was a lot of backlash online about the sketch and Cecily not wanting to do it and all that stuff. And my understanding, it was like a difficult process for everybody, but for me, I actually think one of the good things that we can walk away with this year compared to some of the last few years with rookies is I think Chloe Troast's batting average is really high. We haven't seen her as much in the second half, but when we do see her in an A role or a B role, I think that the sketch has been really well regarded. Like Get That Boy Back was really great at the second half of the season.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was good. Yeah. That was really good.
Yeah, like obviously we were expecting after seeing like Little Orphan Cassidy or the Mama Cass sketch, back to back in the early first half season, that maybe Chloe Troast was going to be a major factor in the season. But I do think that maybe instead of getting like a sophomore slump, we got like a little bit of a second half, like, okay, Chloe, we saw what you can do, like you're going to have your chance type of thing. And we got bits and pieces sprinkled in. Next year, she might flourish.
Yeah, I'll take a guess. And I'm not gonna stand by this, but I don't stand by anything I say. Based on what you suggest, you're right. I mean, to me, when I think of this season, what did I like her most in? That musical parody and also the Airbnb. to which I thought was really, really good.
Very
to
good.
Pre-tapes. I wonder, is she going to have the trajectory of Vanessa Bayer, which was
Absolutely.
absolutely solid in live sketches, but in pre-tapes, she was the queen of pre-tapes of her generation. So that'll be my hot take on Chloe, that she could be the next pre-tape queen as she grows into the role.
I love that. Oh my God, I love that take. Yeah, especially those ones you shout out, Airbnb.
Yeah. Amanda, you want to get into something on Troast here?
Oh no, I am not. I'm just absolutely agreeing. I think like it's like, well, I think that's also a really important place to be in this cast, is the person that just excels in the pre-tapes, because everyone's got to have their niches, and having that other than just, I'm a really good singer, and if you put a lot of makeup on me, I can also be really hot too. Great.
Yeah.
I want.
I mean, that was my thing. That was my lane on the SNN podcast. So if that's going to be taken over by someone else, let me know.
It's mine.
Can I also just say, Chloe Troast is a hot new cast member. There was like this like talk about like hot cast members, and I think Chloe Fineman.
All of them are hot.
No.
Every one of this cast
let's
is hot.
not do that.
Every woman in this cast is unbelievably hot. I will go to my.
We're not gonna do.
But
no. What I'm trying to say is, I think there's this. You talked about the conversation about like the alpha male like cast member, and like Chloe Troast herself commented on this like person that was talking about like there's no hot cast member in SNL, and she was doing a joke about like, well, like I'm like hot. That's not how she like did it or whatever. But like, there is another thing, like kind of like when Sydney Sweeney hosts, like there's something about when like beautiful people host, but like when Sydney Sweeney like hosted, she did that little Airbnb sketch that was really funny with Chloe Troast. I don't have a fully formed thought here, but there is something about like Chloe Troast's talents on top of her looks that she can also add to a sketch, like specifically like how someone's looks adds to like what the sketch will be.
I could see star power for sure, and I think let's put a pin in that, because we're going to talk about it as we see what comes up, because we never know. But I want to talk about the last piece before we start getting into our award show that we're going to do tonight, which is the host booking decisions. Now,
can we bring up? You mentioned themes, and I feel like we didn't touch on other themes outside of.
Well, let me do the host booking decisions, and then I'll go around. I'll just give you each a chance to talk about any other themes from the season that you want to. So let me do that first, which is that if I told you guys in September or October that this season we would have two of the biggest stars in the world in Timothee Chalamet and Sydney Sweeney hosting the show, we would have alumni like Maya Rudolph, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, and Pete Davidson come to host the show. A good mix of stand-ups in here, some random returning hosts. I mean, I think, if you just put the list, also don't forget Adam Driver and Emma Stone, two of the biggest hosts of the SNL 40s, coming in as well. I think you'd be like, damn, that sounds like an incredible season. So from a host booking decision perspective, did the show nail it this year, Rich?
Nail it is always hard to say, but yeah, I think this was it felt like overall a pretty good mix of established stars, up and coming stars, musicians pulling double duty, stand-up comedians, alumni. I always have to get negative points. No Jon Hamm, so that immediately. That's
we got Jon Hamm. We got a lot of Jon Hamm.
But not enough. We got not enough.
Fair,
we didn't get the ham sandwich. It was more of like appetizer, maybe a little appetizer.
We pulled the slices out the packet. Yeah. We put the slices out the Hillshire Farms packet.
Did they all deliver the way I would hope they would deliver? No, it's always going to be a hit and miss season. I can never get my head around the casting decisions. I wish I could be in the room more than anything else, more than being at a table read, more than seeing which sketches they pick right between dress and air. I would love to be in the conversations around which guest to book, which musical guest to book, because it doesn't. Sometimes it eludes logic to me. But overall, I thought they did a fine job this year.
Amanda, what about you? I know you're really tapped into pop culture, so you're always monitoring who could potentially host the show. How do you feel like SNL did, if you got to grade them this year on their hosting?
It was great for everybody white and Ayo Edebiri.
There we go. Let's talk about it.
Go ahead. I want to hear
it's
all right, so
the first 5 hosts were white men. The first 5 hosts were white men. It doesn't look good. And then you brought back Emma Stone. Sure, great, love her. Don't get me wrong.
Wait, hold on, is Jason Momoa white?
Hold on,
is he technically white? And Bad Bunny is not white.
Bad Bunny is not a white man.
He's clearly Latino.
He doesn't even speak English.
Yeah,
His first language.
he's not
Oh,
Portuguese. I don't
I'm
think he's from
not
Spain.
talking. I'm not talking.
We can't count Bad Bunny in that group. We can't.
Well, I think we can all agree that SNL booked 5 men to start the season.
5 men in a row.
Yes,
How
yeah,
about
we
that?
can. Yeah,
Sure.
Five
men who
in
were
a
lighter
row.
than beige. We can say that they were lighter than beige.
No black men. No Sterling K. Brown.
Oh,
who
God.
was right there
him.
and would have
Love him.
Has a movie who would have been amazing. But great, Jake Gyllenhaal promoting a movie that came out 3 months ago. Go ahead, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like I just I don't think there's anything. There was episodes where I was like, "What year is it?"
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake and Dakota Johnson.
Dakota
What
Johnson.
year was it? Because if you had done that in 2014 when 50 Shades of Grey came out, yeah, I would have believed you. Would have believed you.
2015 when Can't Stop the Feeling was out, and when 50 Shades was out, that would have been super. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question, Amanda? Which is just so I understand your point of view, and I want to make sure the listeners do as well. Do you feel that the lack of diversity in the hosting decisions this season tainted your view of the season as a whole?
Not necessarily, but when you look at it as a package, it doesn't look good on its face. And
Yeah, let me pick it back
that's the
on
point
that.
I'm trying to make. Yeah.
Yeah, let me pick it back on that because Amanda makes a great call up because I was excited for, I would say with the exception of Dakota Johnson, I was excited for every other host that was announced. I knew who the host was. I knew they were a big star. I knew they were talented. This was a talented or like people who are funny, reliable. I felt like there was the host booking for me was one of the strongest things about this entire season.
Even the people I was like, oh.
Yes, yeah. So I was never bothered. I'm never gonna expect season 43 when the season that Black Panther happened to come out then when Tiffany Haddish, Sterling K. Brown, Donald Glover were hosting. I know I will never see that magic again. I love that. I don't, and honestly, I'm even say this because I was glad to see people like Ramy, Youssef, like Bad Bunny hosting. I don't need everybody to be black. But it was in a world like we live in now where only 25% of your hostings are are diverse. I don't think it was bad because I think their quality was good in terms of hosting. Oh, I forgot Jennifer Lopez. So actually,
but I think that your quality of your episode relies on the host so much that how much are you really infiltrating or getting a depiction of the culture if you're not depicting the culture? Because even I would go far as I love Maya Rudolph and I thought her episode was amazing, but that was an episode about mothers. That was not an episode about black women.
That was so boring for me.
And there's
so
nothing
boring.
wrong with that because it was the Mother's Day episode. But I think that it doesn't look good when we're talking about this show and it's already having an issue with X, Y, and Z and with racial depictions as it is. And I understand there's certain people you have to get. Jacob Elordi you have to get because he was the moment.
He could have stayed home.
You know what I
good
mean? I mean on a purely pop culture level, absolutely. But
if he talked about Euphoria, sure, but he didn't. Sorry.
Well, I also think
he was in the most popular movie. I'm
watching a movie where a man is fucking the ground, but I love Euphoria.
Exactly, but
let me just jump in if you guys don't mind and just say that I do think that another factor here is diversity in thought and diversity in experience, right? Because comedy is largely based on people's life views, their experiences and all that stuff. So it's not just about filling a quota to me where it's let's check off the boxes and try and get one of each. What we really want to do is we want to bring in people who have different backgrounds and experiences so we can be creative in comedy. And I think that's if you guys don't mind me saying, I think that's what I look for and what I think all of us are looking for in the show.
Right. I don't get you wrong, but I think that there is if I didn't have the list open right in front of me, I wouldn't I'm just looking at it just felt like there were so many good swings taken this season, especially in terms of casting or sketches and all of these things. But for every swing, there was one where I was that's not what I would do. But I feel in general, if you look at the hosting picks this season, whoever is in the casting room is aware. They're not Mark Jacobs' social media team aware, but they're at least I would say they're living in 2020, like November 2021 in terms of cast, like popularity and casting relevance in the show. And that's not because they've done way more obscure casting things. And I was here the night that they announced that Shane Gillis was hosting, and you remember my reaction. So that's all I gotta say. It's the only episode this season I did not watch, and I will never watch. Thank you.
I do want to disagree with Amanda a teeny bit because, and this is maybe me trying my best to like think outside of my own bias, which I have, like, I can have a heavy black bias. Like, I have no shame in admitting that. But I noticed that when I immediately, the thing is, if I don't think about it when it's happening in the season, then to me, I'm not saying objectively, I'm saying subjectively, then it's a good thing. I've had seasons where I've watched SNL, specifically whichever season it was that Sandra Oh hosted, I think in the second episode. I remember that season. No, it was the Sandra Oh season, or it was the Aquafina season. I remember specifically, there was like a lineup of like hosts, and it was like, man, this is a lot of like white people. And like, but I like white people that are like very talented. Like except for Dakota Johnson, I like this whole lineup of hosts that we had. Even if some of them had weaker episodes, I enjoy them all as performers. Jacob Elordi, bad episode, great actor. The point I'm trying to get at is that, like, if I don't feel it when I'm watching the season, then like as I'm going through, then to me, I can tell it's not an end theme. It didn't become a theme until the SNL, until the Art Saturday Night Network posted a graphic, and I was like, hold up a second. I was like, I literally, when I was doing prep for the podcast,
we don't shy away from anything. We'll just put it up.
When you see it visually on a page, it looks so much worse. It's why you look at like certain brands, Instagrams, you look on the page and people are like, oh, I know you're not for me because I'm not seeing it on the page. You know?
And the show should feel like it's for everybody. But like we want everyone to feel like Saturday Night Live is for them.
And so I realized there was a couple of things. One, I keep forgetting to count Jennifer Lopez in my diversity numbers technically. But like, so I think it was like 30% like diverse, but I keep forgetting I can't just count things that are diverse by like race. When I looked at gender, we had about 40% of our hosts that were women. That's 8 women out of like 20. And I know not everything is always going to be like 50-50, but I love the mention about diversity of thought. Aside from Shane Gillis, which like him as a performer is fine, but like, come on, man, like really, like I don't know. I got a little like what I'm trying to get at is basically that like aside from Shane Gillis, who like is talented, but like dude, racism, like what the fuck, like come on, man. Aside from that, like all these performers did have like different dimensions that they brought. We weren't seeing the same crusty white man, you know, in a 4-episode span. There was a recent season where we had that. No, even like a Josh Brolin and Jake Gyllenhaal, 2 actors who like, you know, like I may not follow their careers except for like one movie, but they really brought things to their episode. And so if they're still performing and like I'm really enjoying it, like I feel like it works. But I did also appreciate seeing like an IO like in the season. I did appreciate seeing Pedro Pascal pop up in an episode that was with a predominantly Spanish speaker. So like a Ramy Youssef episode is something I've never seen in my entire life. I've never watched Ramy. I'm not going to. It's not my thing. I'm not going to watch Mo. I'm not going to watch what is it? There's HBO Max show Zabi. It's about like a non-binary Muslim person. But I'm not going to watch these shows, not because I got anything against them, but I haven't found my entry point. But SNL is an excellent entry point for me. I'm going to see Ramy, and I think he did excellent. And it was so cool to see things like a Ramadan sketch where we see little notes about like having a bowl of dates, like when you're trying to like fast. So I really appreciated seeing those additional things. I don't need every single episode of SNL to be like, oh, wow, give me a cultural lens, because I feel like that's like a little much. But I've really enjoyed seeing it. And I do wonder if SNL is aware of that type of reception. And I wonder if they don't think there is a good enough return from them when booking. But I don't think they made bad host booking decisions for this season. And granted, it was all a bunch of white people I do generally love. You know, or like I don't know. It was even Nate Bargatze. I think like the reason I didn't dislike Nate Bargatze is because that's such an odd pick. Like that's such it was so odd that I forgot about like I didn't think about who he was. I was like, this is an epic for a comedian. You're picking a small comic, like to
But
do this. Like this is interesting.
Can I also
And you
just
said
jump in,
diversity of
TJ?
thought.
I just want to say that again, I'm not defending the show, but I just want to say that also
I'm not upset, by the way. I'm just
no,
saying I'm not.
I know you're not. But I want to be fair because, again, like we make this show for the listeners of the podcast, but there are people who work there who do listen to our show. And I know that some of them may be listening to this conversation and saying, like, you guys are not in the room. You guys don't know who says yes and who says no to the show. Look,
of course.
We're encouraging, we encourage them to do better on all these fronts.
Yes.
However,
I'm not.
We just don't know like how
But
who was asked.
this is
and all that
also
stuff.
my job. My job is to yell
right.
about these things. Like my literal job is to. So unfortunately, when you
that's
bring
okay.
me to talk about things like this, I'm
And
gonna.
I truly mean this. I'm very honored to have the platform here that we can have these discussions because it's
okay,
awesome.
hold on.
It's
Let
awesome
me just say this.
Yeah.
As much as I talk about like diversity and race like on this show, this is one of the times I'm not like bothered and like upset. Like that's not the case like whatsoever. And as somebody who works in corporate America, as all of us have worked in like different work environments where we've been in the room where we suggested an idea and it's an idea that could advance something or could be good, but we got like shot down. I know what that's like to like hear all the ideas in the room, but then the thing that's presented to the outside world is something and people are going like, what is this? What is this? And then you as a person on that team have to be like, well, shoot, like this is just the thing that like was like advanced. So like, that's not a critique of SNL. Like I remember specifically there was a Melissa Villaseñor interview or Instagram post or something she did where somebody asked her, hey, who are some musical guests you would love to see? And she mentioned like a bunch of people. Now, Melissa Villaseñor is not going to make the musical guest decision. She might, like, I know Heidi had an influence for like Travis Kelce hosting, but like, aside from that, like she mentioned like a bunch of really cool artists, which means Melissa Villaseñor, somebody who's maybe not in that room, but is in the space, you know, might be able to have a little bit more influence than one of us on who's coming to maybe like sing or rap that particular episode. But of all the great artists that she named, you know, we didn't see like a single one of them, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I understand what it's like to like be in that room and then have an idea shot down. Maybe somebody thought we should have Angela Bassett come in. And then Lauren was like, oh, like, no. Oh, granted, I don't know why, but like I don't know who would.
Yeah,
but like, I understand that it's not one thing.
That's my whole thing. It's just that like we don't know every single
I understand that,
decision point, but regardless, we're allowed to feel how we feel about the show. Rich, did you want to jump in on anything here?
I mean, more listening than speaking on this, but I will, what I hope is, I will say this bigger than SNL. A number of comedians who through the years I have quite loved and respected are now talking about how political correctness is killing comedy, and to all of them that I think that smart comedians are flourishing and saying very interesting things in 2024 is that, and I don't know if what we're talking about is coincidental to, as you said, John, who happened to be available, who they needed, who they tried to get, a person of color wasn't interested, or if it was a little more intentional. If there was a feeling of, oh, we no longer have to check a box, and if potentially the booking of Shane Gillis was without any reference or any framing of why it was okay to bring back somebody who you fired, if that's a symbol of that, then I would be quite concerned about season 50. I would be, if Dave Chappelle showing up and standing on the goodbye stand after trashing transgender people for the third special in a row, even though he wasn't in a sketch, if it's a symbol of that, then I'm quite concerned about season 50. If it is just, that's how it went, they tried to get a lot of different people and these were the best people they could get, then let's see what happens.
Yeah. That's fair. I also want to say, a couple things in the chat, because again, I love that all these people are chatting live with us every single Monday night, and I appreciate all their viewpoints as well. I love what Fred said here, where he mentioned that like there's a huge part of the country that also finally felt represented by having Ramy host the show. Obviously, that was a big night for a different style of comedy, so I want to give credit to that and that style of booking, because Ramy Youssef to me did not feel like a big name. Let's get the guy who's a movie star type of thing. This felt like let's look for a specific viewpoint, somebody who's becoming big in a certain segment of the the United States, and I was happy to see that. And even just being there, I saw the people that were there to support him. That was awesome as well. And I love this comment from Demi as well, who mentions that watching Marcelo do a Latino accent, or Bowen making fun of a Chinese person, like it's such a relief, because there was just so long in Saturday Night Live where we had predominantly were white cast members playing all different types of people. And it's, as somebody who goes back and watches old episodes of the show, we could be proud of some of the greatest sketches in SNL history or the greatest moments in SNL history. And sometimes they are tainted by, the inappropriateness that there was not enough diversity on the cast. So I do think that the strides that SNL has made, both in the writer's room and as a cast, I want to, applaud those as well. So we can have these conversations, and one thing doesn't necessarily have to do with another, but it's important to just mention everything.
And I will say I'm old enough. I'm old enough to remember back in the day, even with the best intent, sometimes having a host of color. Clearly, well-meaning writers did not know how to write, where it
100%.
Didn't feel like here are the comedy is this is a person of color, and I feel like we've come very far from that, which is between the cast and the writers, and the willingness to just put on something that a white American like myself might not immediately understand, and that's okay.
Yeah, I want to move the show forward and talk about any other moments that we wanted to bring up as major themes of the season. So for you, Rich, do you think of any other major themes that you wanted to bring up?
The only other theme I'll quickly mention was, we talk about hitting a stride and a slump is I want to talk about Please Don't Destroy for a hot second, because if you had grabbed me, a third way through the season, I would have said, this is the second coming of PDD. They had a piece in every one of the first 6 episodes. No, I'm sorry. I was saying this is the PDD becoming the anchor of the show. That PDD is the star of Saturday Night Live. I mean, I think they were in the first 6 episodes. Every week they had a piece that was somewhere between good to great. And then in the remaining 14 episodes, they had 4 pieces, and some of them not their best. So just an interesting to see PDD start out so strong, and then for whatever reason, really kind of fall off, taking out their amazing writing of live sketches, but PDD as a performance and production unit, I'm really not sure what happened to them. I was really, really gung-ho about them early on, and then we really saw them kind of fade into the background in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I would be so curious to ask them what really did happen. And the answer, they may never tell us, but I do feel like the easiest answer is that SNL was pushing them so hard to promote their movie. And remember that, I think there was still an actors strike going into the season.
Yes, there was. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember them going on Fallon in November, like right as they were able to finally promote the movie. And it was like, oh, we're the first people that could promote anything. So Peacock was like pushing them and all this stuff. So when we all saw them in the opening credits for the Pete episode, it was like, whoa, PDD, or like, are they almost cast members? Like it was like a Robert Smigel, like TV Funhouse thing going on there. It was very interesting and fascinating. And then in the second half of the season, I felt like we barely saw them. Like they had a couple sketches that were good, but this was the least amount of PDD I think we got in their 3 years on the show. So totally agree, Rich. It was a very weird year for PDD, not without success, but it was just interesting. Amanda, what about you? Any other major takeaways from the season?
My only point about I didn't get to touch on was the fact that, the 1 in 5 out of the hosts being former cast members thing. Again, not a bad thing, but it is kind of like okay, so who didn't pick up the phone? It give me kind of that, kind of that energy, like.
But don't you think, Amanda? Don't you think that's fan service as opposed to not being able to book new people?
Save it for season 50.
Well, I do want to piggyback on Amanda's note here, because I think I do agree with Rich actually about it being fan service, because yes, what is it, 20% of your 20 or 25% of your hosts are returning or cast members, but also if you look at it at a broader sense, nearly half of their hosts, 45%, were returning. So I don't think it was actually who didn't pick up the phone. Maybe for Maya, maybe. I think it was actually more wish fulfillment. We got Adam. I think it was a back-to-back of Chalamet, Momoa. I'm not saying we wanted Momoa, but we got Chalamet, Momoa, Stone, Driver, and Kate McKinnon. No. That's not me coming from Momoa. I'm saying Momoa's
Yeah.
episode was good. I actually like Momoa. I like him a lot in Fast X, especially. But I'm saying he wasn't maybe the first person I thought of that I would want to see back. John Hamm is a great example. Somebody I maybe want back a little bit more. What I'm
But
trying
it
to say
also
is that we
didn't
gotta
feel. Yeah,
hold on. Let me
I was
say
gonna
this.
say yeah, I'll come back to you in 2 seconds. But just the four, just to remind the listeners, the four previous cast members that were booked to host the season were Pete, Kate, Kristen, and Maya. And three of those people, I would say, like, are no brainers to book this season. I think if you're gonna get, if Kate and Kristen are available, like, these are two top 10 cast members of all time on most people's list. And Pete Davidson had never hosted the show, was supposed to host the next episode before the strike. Felt natural to book him for the premiere. I think Maya was a little bit more of a question mark, but that's sort of my take
And
on
Maya
it. And
coming so close after Kristen was a little atypical.
That was
I'm
odd.
still
But all
begging
I'm
for Jennifer Coolidge.
That is true.
Just
I wonder.
saying.
I wonder if that was just a
Yes.
schedule thing. I wonder if that, like, for Jennifer Coolidge, has just been scheduling. I wonder if that's what it is. What I'm trying to say specifically is, we got nearly 50% of our hosts were returning hosts. I don't know how. That feels like a bigger stat. Like, that feels like a Mike Murray question. Like, how? Like, is that like common
It
for a
is a
season
Mike
for us to
Murray
have
question.
nearly a 50% returning host? And let's say this thing incredibly clear. I do not think that is a bad thing in any way, shape, or form, because it's a reliable show. We know what we're expecting. And even if something might, like, I think this was one of the weaker Emma Stone episodes we got, even though we wanted her back, it's still Emma Stone. Like, she still gave it her. There's nothing she did wrong. She never did a single thing wrong in her entire life, ever. Sorry, I just love Emma Stone a lot. She's great. But like, Adam Driver had a really strong episode.
Her preferred name.
Emily Stone. Are you?
You're welcome.
God, Amanda. No, but all I'm saying is that, like, I think this was much more of a wish fulfillment season. This was an excellently booked season.
Yes.
Exceptionally well done.
But I will say this. I also think every note that we said about the writer strike probably also affected hosting. And hosting.
And definitely for the first two seasons. That's why I think Pete and Bad Bunny were the first two, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even Nate. I wonder if the first three, because, you know, Pete can always, instead of being an actor, you can always just slide in like, hey, I'm a comic. Nate, a comic, like, he's not like an actor to my knowledge. And Bad Bunny is a musician. You got three non-actor or non-writer hosts. Or
I
people
wouldn't
that
be shocked if that had a big hand, mostly in actually hosting.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
and
that
in that way that they might have also been like, in going back to TJ's statistics, I can't pronounce that word. I never have been able to.
Girl, it's 20. Facts. You can make statistics out of 20. It's so easy. Like, it's everything is just
I was the one who did the math first. But I'm saying your note about the 50% most returning cast, that part.
No, not returning cast, returning hosts.
Returning hosts. That's what I mean. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think that also maybe the strike played a factor in that, because they were like, okay, maybe since the writing staff, we're still trying to find our sea legs, trying to, you know, get back stable, all things are good. We're going to rely on people we know, or at least in the beginning, like, you know, that we can have our little things that we can take our, you know, Pete, Bad Bunny, Nate, they were like the people, not saying these are the scraps and that we get what we get. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, like, you know, they had to go for a few more safer bets in terms of getting people who've already done this before, just because of the parameters that they were working under. That's the point I've been trying to make.
And you are right, Amanda, that the writer strike ended right after the Nate Bargatze episode, before SAG actor Timothee Chalamet comes on after him.
Was he our first? Oh, God. I thought the actor strike out.
It was 2 days after the writer strike. Yeah. After the actor strike ended. Yeah.
I think it's a good bookend, you know, bookend.
It had been booked in ahead of time. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we.
Can I mention my themes now?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, TJ. Yeah. Let's get your.
All I was going to say is this was an excellent season for Dismukes. I think that is a resounding.
Yeah. We're going to do MVP for sure.
Oh, yeah. Like, in terms of, like, quality, not actually, I don't even say quality for Dismukes. I want to specifically call out definition of who this person is what this was for Dismukes. Like, oh, we got it. Like, we know what SNL cast member he's going to be, which I hope this isn't insulting to say. I think there's sprinkles of Forte. I don't think we talk about that. There's also a little bit of Jason Sudeikis in there, not for the jock of it. Like, because Destiny, like, you know, definitely Sudeikis was much more of a jock when it came to sports. I think Dismukes can get into the jock attitude of being the jerk. Like, I think, like, that is a thing that, like, similar to, like, what Sudeikis was able to bring, that Dismukes is able to bring to the table. you know, but he does it with things that would, like, he's a jerk about things that Will Forte, not Will Forte is a very nice person, but he's a jerk about things that people would think would be like things Will Forte would notice, not things actually Will Forte would like catch on to. So I think this is an excellent season for him. I think this was something I called out many times that I did coverage.
TJ, sorry, I was going to say, could we, if you're going to do some of the cast member stuff, do you think we can integrate that into some of the sketch discussion? Because I think it would be probably better for the listeners just if we just mix that in there. And if we do miss any of your major themes or takeaways, we can always come back to them at the end of the show. So I just want to, if that's okay.
I have 2 non-cast specific ones.
Then let's do that. Yeah.
This was just like a positive note. There's a lot of great kid actors in the season. We specifically in the first episode, the PDD, the original Princess of Comedy sketch that I think a lot of us really enjoyed. Those kids that were telling stand up, and then there's these kids are cursing out the cast members. Every kid actor that showed up was fantastic. Like, just shout out to them. They were fantastic supporting little characters. It'll be so fun to see if like one of them hosts like SNL in 20 years. That's just really cool.
Shout out to the kid actors and the extras this season. The extras really.
The extras were great. Oh yeah,
really a lot of great work.
Yeah. And then the other thing was there were a few sketches I think about like similar to like the Spectrum Cable sketch from the Kieran Culkin, but I think about the Jake Gyllenhaal one. There's the one that was earlier, like a mid-season. There was a few more sketches where things were happening in either side by side, like were happening in sort of like side by side. Like almost the entire sketch is us not seeing the performers on the same stage. There was like a Chalamet. This is one of the worst sketches we saw. It was like a Chalamet sketch called Gym Call, where Heidi calls a gym, and like it's like all the guys that answer the phone are like morons, but the entire sketch is in side by side. And I just thought like I didn't think it was interesting. I just thought that was like a thing they're doing a little bit more because we live in a world where people watch things in portrait mode.
That's
and I
traditionally
wonder
a cold
if they're
open
trying
thing.
to lean into that.
It's a cold open thing that they've done for a long time where you'd have a press conference where somebody would be like, let's say JJ as Trump would be on home base and facing the crowd. And then the people asking him the questions can't literally in the studio be facing him and asking him the questions. They're on a separate stage and the cameras just make it look like they're facing each other. So that is something that's now being applied to some other sketches as well. So maybe that is a trend that if you go back on the season, you could look at. But TJ, I definitely want to get into some of your other thoughts on the cast members. And we're going to do that as we go through the different moments of the season. So this is the part of the podcast where we're going to get into our SNL award show. So we don't have a good name for the awards that we give out here, but I used to call it, I think in 46, maybe we call them the Statsies, but if anyone in the chat has a good name for our awards that we're going to give us.
The 90 Awards. Come on.
That's it.
That's
the
90s.
Yeah, the 90s.
The
90s. Oh my God, that's
something for something a little bit more SNN themed, but we can go with the 90s.
John, listen to Black women. Come on, man. This is solid work.
Yeah. If I learned anything,
the 90s.
If I learned anything tonight, it's listen to Black women. So we're gonna go with the 90s. so let's do it. Let's start with our cold opens this season. So lots of different types of cold opens. Just some general themes, and I'm gonna let our panel get into some of the best cold opens and ones they're going to remember from the season. But general themes here is obviously we saw the continuation of JAJ as Trump many times this season. That's clearly an impression that's going to take off into the election season, headed into season 50. We saw the transfer of the current presidential impression, which is something that is very unique in terms of looking back of this 50-year history of the show, where JJ was no longer playing Biden. It was now passed off to Mikey Dave for at least a couple times on this show. The situation that was happening in the Middle East was clearly a major factor that was, looming large on this season. How many times they were going to cover it? Were there going to be tentpole moments in the show? They ended up having 3 different cold opens that I think are significant that, 10 or 15 or 20 years back, down the road, when people are going to look back, they're going to see Pete Davidson talking to the nation. They're going to look at that anti-Semitism, testimony sketch. They're going to also take a look at the community affairs sketch that we got towards the end of the season and see what was happening on college campuses. And like I said, that could be a time capsule moment for what was happening in 2024. So always interested from you, Rich, how you feel like SNL handled cold opens and who's going to get the 90 this season.
Boy, coming from me, the handing out the 90 sounds terrible. I feel like I'm going to get canceled for this. Thanks,
Love
Amanda.
it. Yeah, steer into it, Rich. Steer the car.
I'm going to say what I guarantee that I said to you guys at the end of last season and probably the season before, which is I think that while the show overall is extremely strong and I'm a huge fan, I think we have a cold open problem. We've had a cold open problem for the last few years, and that's because back in the day, SNL was, outside of Johnny Carson and AM talk radio DJs, SNL was the first definitive comedic voice on a current event of note to a generation on Saturday night. And we now live in a time where they are often the last voice on a specific current event. By the time we get to that current event, it has been covered by late night, by social media, by YouTube, by TikTok, and so it often feels tired, when they're first hitting it. So I think we have a problem there. I much more enjoy when SNL looks at politics through a fresher lens rather than a current lens. There was the sketch, it was on the Shane Gillis episode, but the Trump victory party, which was not my favorite cold open, but the idea of it, the idea of seeing, in this case, Republicans having to pretend that they think Trump is great, was a fresh take that I haven't heard a million times. I don't think the execution was great. So, but for me, I really liked Joe Biden and the Panda, which going back to the Jason Momoa, I thought that was fun. But I think of all of them, I'm going to give it, and it just feels like a cheat, I'm going to give it to the return of the Close Encounter sketch in the Ryan Gosling episode. It was absolute, just feeding chum to SNL fans. Weird that we didn't see it on the episode when Kate McKinnon hosted, but just for opening a show with silliness and fun and laughs, I think bringing back the Close Encounter sketch, which I didn't even think was a great version of the Close Encounter sketch, was probably the most fun moment for me.
Amanda, how are you feeling with the cold opens this season, and who will get the 90?
As soon as you said what your favorite ones, I went favorite. I was just like, there was absolutely cold opens this season. There definitely were.
There was a clear favorite.
There were definitely cold opens. Well, my clear favorite, and it is a testament to what Rich was saying. My favorite, the best cold open, was the cold open where the focus was not on anyone in the main cast, which is the cold open where Scarlett Johansson came in as Katie Britt. That's the best cold open of the season.
That was a good one. What one was that even, honestly?
And
100%.
That was the State of the Union. That was about the State of the Union. And that was the
I lost track of that one. Right. I couldn't remember where it was because it happened so late in the sketch that I'm like, I don't have to, I didn't have time to try to dig for it.
Yeah, I literally had to spend right before we started. I was going through, getting in the gig, getting ready to do this, mentally going through it, and I was like, I can't remember a single cold open this season. And then I remember that one. I was like, oh, that's because it was stellar.
It was in the Josh Brolin episode.
It was in the Josh Brolin episode, and it was stellar. And I think it goes back to the series Chronic, the CCO, the chronic cold open problem. And they need to remember that.
You did not just give it a not CCO.
Hey, I am just dubbing everything today. I named an award show today. Okay.
CCO is also Chief Corporate Officer. My goodness.
Yeah. And I am that.
ScarJo's gonna get your 90 for this.
Very much. Give ScarJo my negligee. Thank you.
Yeah.
ScarJo was so great in that. I'm so upset I forgot about that because that was really good. Oh, I'm biased.
Yeah, well, TJ, which one would you give it to?
Okay, I would give it to. I'm look. It's so tired to say that the cold opens just don't hit for me. I'm just not the most political person. Maybe more sociological is maybe more what I am. I don't know if that's more relevant. Sociocultural, I think it's a better term, but that's been said so many times. So I actually did go back and look. I was like, let me actually see, because part of the problem with doing this is you have recency bias. You remember maybe the past 3 cold opens that happened, so you really have to dig to see what the hell was I doing 9 months ago. That is the tough thing about do this. So you have to go back. And I was like, okay, I know if I see a headline and a thumbnail, I don't know if this is for you guys, but if I see it, I'm like, oh, I remember what that was. I kind of genuinely remember how I felt about it. And for most of the cold opens, it was a little hard because they sort of blended together a little bit. But I will give it the one like political cold open that hit for me, and this was more my. So I'll say this: my third place was the Easter like cold open sketch because I remember having such a big reaction to it, because of how I am about like how fucking like dorky it is to want a Bible with the Constitution is. Like, go fuck yourself. Sorry, I had such an emotional reaction to that. But it's not even about the sketch itself. But I remember thinking, oh wow, it's fun to make fun of this. But I'm more enjoying it because of the people it's making fun of that were like actually like that. So I don't think that's fair. I think it's more mean. I was being mean spirited in it. The second non-political, the Christmas awards. But honestly, I think they did it better when they did like it reminded me of the parade sketch, like the first. You know what? Actually, I'm sorry. What it was going to be was the first like warm or cold day in New York, but I was wrong because that was in the last season. So I was like, well, shit, I can't even do it. That was going to be my like go-to cold open. So I was like, what the hell like was it? And I'm really, really glad that I went back and actually took a look through the photo opens because what it actually was, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm glad I like rewatched it too. I actually think the strongest cold open was the one that comes right out of the writer's strike, you know, right at the initiation of a lot that's happening over in the Middle East. I think it is the peak cold open for me. I know that it's not funny, it's not touching, but there was something about like Pete. I mean, there's little jokes, but like there's something about Pete relating it to. He knows what it's like to be the family member of someone who has family that's been like harmed by like terrorism. And I was like, man, like this, like it came from such an empathetic place. And, you know, he tried to show a little bit of good spiritedness in there as well with something that's very touchy. Heart wise, for me, it's that one. That's. I'm not saying it's the best. I'd say this is more for TJ. Like I'd give that the 90. If I was a biased Academy member, I would give it to that one.
All right. Well, speak your truth. I mean, I love that you said that. So, you know,
I'm not doing it to pander to you. It hit me the most. Like, sorry.
No, I marked that to me as my honorable mention. I mean, if the job of the cold open is to make us laugh, I can't give it the 90. I'm going all in, Amanda. Sure. I'm sticking with this. But I agree. To me, it's the governor's award of the 90s in how masterfully they handled such a complicated situation. And when I saw Pete Davidson's face talking about it, I was like, oh, this is not going to go well. And then when he brought up his father, and it was just like very emotional and an amazing way to start the season. So I completely agree.
Yeah. I second that. So, one we didn't bring up tonight that I would like to mention, because, conventionally, if you wrote this out on paper, I'd be like a little bit hesitant. But Bowen Yang as George Santos saying goodbye to America as sort of like George Santos, Elton John, was fantastic. That whole thing put together, that was from the Emma Stone episode in December. Him singing Candle in the Wind and then going into Live from New York. And again, like, I'm not the type of person that's like a sucker for singing in sketches, but like, I thought it was so beautiful. Like, it was really well done and it was funny and it hit on all those notes. So like, it might be like a little bit of a
sing, and no one gives him enough credit. He can actually sing. He can hold a tune.
We give him enough credit. We saw him do it with Cecily. We see him do it a lot. Like he sings a lot. Like we do give him credit.
Apparently, Baz Luhrmann sent him an email. So
I think it's a really good one. That look, I would have to give my 90 also to the Scarlett Johansson one, but as like a sleeper 90, then
goodness, how would your fiance feel?
He wants to give a 90 to Scarlett Johansson. It's on recording. Woo!
Can I also just say that my ScarJo bias is not only coming in because that was great, but I just watched the movie Rough Night that she's in, which no one's seen it. Go see it. It's great.
I love that.
It's great. Yeah. Never seen it. Solid, underrated movie.
To close the book on the cold opens, I also want to say that, Rich, I love the point you made. It's the point that I've been trying to advocate for years on this show, which is like SNL needs to go back to creating scenes for cold opens. And that's the thing that I think always clicks. It always works. And there's, something I'm hoping to see. Like, we're going to get some debate sketches in season 50. I know that. But it would be nice if we saw a little bit of a fictional scene of how these people interact and turn them into characters. That's where SNL started and where it should be.
It could have been great to see like that really fantastic McDonald's Clinton sketch, which for me is one of my favorite cold opens.
Yeah,
you guys know what I'm talking about with of course.
Was it with
Yeah, I was going to say Daryl Hammond, my bad. But that one, like that to me felt like a scenario, like with them going in and like stuffing his face while also talking. Like it'd be really great to see like what we did have. Like I'd be so curious to see like sort of that old thinking in this new era, like how that.
And you have to, and TJ, because you're 1/3 my age, you have to remember about that sketches.
Rich, I'm 31.
Okay, well, close. You are.
Don't let this beautiful skin fool you.
Everyone here is in their 30s.
Everyone here is
in their 30s.
Yeah.
I'm actually 31. Oh my God, I'm 31. It just hit me.
I'll be 33 next month. So like,
I just turned 31.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Enjoy feeling old while it lasts. Trust me. Yeah. But I remember the thing about that Bill Clinton McDonald's sketch is at that moment in time, like the idea of like, oh, Bill Clinton was overweight and he, and the idea of him, eating, that whole kind of meme started with that sketch. It was they noticed something that no one else was yet talking about, and they made a sketch of it, and that's when SNL is magic. And I actually like I like JJ's Bush more than a lot of other people on the SNL grouping. I still think it's pretty funny.
JJ's Trump.
But I'm sorry. Yeah, yes. But we have not, it's been a while since we actually have, I'm going to say this horribly, like actually, started, ideated, found a thing about a president. It has been years since SNL has found the thing comedically that no one else has yet found and made it into something. And I hope that whether it's here or it's something that to me is what's groundbreaking about that sketch. I don't think we've seen that in a while.
I think that's a Jim Downey thing. Sorry, I was gonna say like just for I think Jim Downey was fantastic at that, and he did it like all the way through from the beginning of the show, skipping a few years, but really going all the way through to turning Will Ferrell's George Bush into a frat guy. And I think the show has been missing just finding a take on a president or a large political figure, and then finding the twist on them. And we've seen it in bits and pieces with administration, but not with the president. And maybe the world has gotten so political that there's some sensitivity there, but that's what SNL is made for.
Look,
Sure.
I don't, the problem is something we already addressed earlier, which is that like everyone kind of has a take. There is no way in hell you're going to be able to get like the unique one-shot take when you have not only, like SNL writers, and you have not only when you have like late night stand-ups, when you have other comics who are like doing things at the Comedy Cellar or at the Comedy Store, you also have people on Black Twitter who are fast as hell working at McDonald's thinking that Joe Biden, he looks like a sunny side up egg. Like people who are so fast and minding their own business. People like us, we're all in our houses right now with headphones just talking, and we can come up with something so quick. You can't, like the speed at which the internet creates takes.
But I don't think it's sorry, I was just gonna jump in. It's not about
it's
easiness.
Impossible.
Yeah, but it's not about easiness, right? Because anybody can come up with something. I think it's not simplicity, it's not easiness. I think it's perspective.
But the challenge is much more. No, I'm saying the challenge to be unique is
I think it's
so much more.
I would say it's a strategy thing. I think that this type of thing happen in all eras of Saturday Night Live, and I'm getting like a little bit grand here, but I'm just saying in all eras of SNL, sometimes these things develop when there is one voice, maybe two voices that that they're leading the writing staff, and it's sort of their show, like who the head writer is, and you understand that. I don't know that as we as diehard SNL fans currently say like so and so is the voice of Saturday Night Live. When Seth Meyers was running the show, I felt like he was quarterbacking. It felt like Seth's show. Like truly everybody was having fun. Like you hear all the stories about the environment that Seth was creating. Same thing with Tina Fey. Like you hear about Tina's SNL, Jim Downey's SNL, Adam McKay's SNL. I don't know that right now that there is one voice that is running the show. And I think that as a consequence of that, there is no, hey, this year on the playbook, we're going to go and create scenes for cold opens. It's just a lot of different groups of writers coming together to try and put together this whole thing that we call season 49.
And I'll add to that, and I'm going to say, I'm not a writer. I'm not saying it's easy to write comedy. I'm not pretending to be better, but like what I see is that we're living in an age that is so divided that not only are we on different political spectrums, that we don't even necessarily agree on what is true, which makes it harder to write comedy. But weirdly, I have not seen SNL take on that. that truism of the world we live in, where we can't even agree on what is true, has not been a perspective that SNL has locked in on as the comedic take of this current moment in time, which to me would be the thing that really SNL could do better than anybody.
Let's talk about the monologues that we saw this season on season 49, which was a lot of the standard fare that I think we saw continue from season 48. Nordwin and DiCenzo, you have to bring them up when you're talking about this era of SNL monologue writers. And, you know, as far as a production perspective, I feel like when we get to going around the table here and discussing some of our favorite monologues from the season, the second half of the season, I felt like they really put the effort in to be more creative with the monologues, which resulted in some really interesting experiments. So, Amanda, let's start with you this time. Who's getting the 90 for the monologues this season?
This is so hard.
Is this even a conversation? No, it's not. I'm sorry. Is this even a conversation? Sorry, Amanda can go, but it's just let's not
TJ,
play.
The
It's like
floor
asking
is
who's the best
yours,
anime protagonist.
please.
It's Goku. Like, sorry, go ahead, Amanda.
Take the floor.
I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to make friends. Okay.
Take the floor.
Sorry, go ahead, Amanda.
Take the floor.
Why wouldn't it be Maya Rudolph? In what world would it not be Maya Rudolph?
Absolutely.
Buckle up, TJ.
Wait,
Yeah.
for the
Maya Rudolph isn't on my top 4.
For the monologue.
For the monologue. She's 4th on my list.
No way.
In what world is it not? I'm not even. This is not even subjective. It's what?
Let's let Amanda.
Can I devil's avocado? I'm going to devil's avocado TJ for a second. I'm going to devil's avocado TJ because I love a call me mother motif. I love anytime that motif that Rudolph does is it's call me mother. It's Vogue. It's Azalea Banks is I can't remember what it's called. But
not Azalea Banks. Girl, come on. Not Azalea Banks.
No,
I know Rich and John don't know who that is.
No, that's the motif that they're doing. Guess who's back in the house? That whole motif. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Anyway, but what I'm saying is I believe that the Maya Rudolph, the reason why is because the whole concept of call me mother, Maya Rudolph being mother. I saw that joke coming a mile away. As soon as I thought she was saying the mother, it's not my number one pick because that call me mother joke is right there. It's right.
That's not the reason that's not the reason it's the pick. And to be honest, I hate pandering when it comes to parents. Like I hate it so much. I can't stand it. No, the reason it is because it was.
You didn't let me finish my thought. I'm so sorry that in the middle of my thought.
My bad.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. I had a point that I was making.
Tell him.
Thank you. Yes.
It was my fault. I apologize.
I know. I'm so sorry. I was just like you to take a second to listen to what I'm saying. But I'm saying is that Maya Rudolph is mother it's a low-hanging fruit of a joke. And while I thought it was great because I love anytime you have somebody get on that stage and do something that requires that level of, that's not an easy song to sing. That's where my credit is going. I was just giving that. It's not an easy thing to do what she did on that stage and choreograph and have all those things work in beats. And naturally, RuPaul himself can't do Call Me Mother. Has said, I don't know all the words to that song. And so for Maya Rudolph, yes, with cue cards to do that, commend her. Everything about it, fantastic. My choice for the nightie, for the negligee, for the nightgowns by Sasha Velour of the season is gonna go to Emma Stone. I don't know why I picked it. I just enjoyed it.
So if you don't remember, Emma
Stone
was the one. 5-timers.
I like having is a 5-timers. Yes, I love having 5-timers. And I love Candice Bergen. I love reminding people that she was, the first one. And the thing is actually, I'm going to take it back. It doesn't go to her. It goes to Io. It goes to Io Edebiri. Because I think she breezed through the genius of that monologue, but that monologue was very good. But I didn't want to give it to her because she's going to come up later on, and I didn't want to sound like a fangirl for her episode.
So just to clarify, you were handing the 90.
I was. I moonlighted it. I moonlighted it. I took it back. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm going to blame it on Faye Dunaway, and it's Faye Dunaway's fault.
Okay, so it's going to Io.
Where it's going with Io Edebiri. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all because I had to think about it in the moment and decide while I was talking in the middle of a sentence. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's no problem, but we know that TJ is going to go with Maya Rudolph here.
Actually,
right?
hold on.
Defend your stance.
Thank you. Sorry, but go ahead, John. Let me let you finish before, like, I have more, but go ahead.
Okay, so we assume that TJ is going to go with Maya Rudolph here, which is a monologue we just saw in this last run. Obviously, like, clearly amazingly well performed, got the cast involved. To me, definitely one of the best monologues of the season. Is not my best monologue. But TJ, do you want to defend it? Or are you going to go in a different direction and just try to let us know who is going to get your 90?
Okay, two things. One, I forgot, I'm on a podcast with two SNL fanboys. I know that you're probably going to go for Kristen Wiig because you saw Will Forte. I know John loves Will Forte. So, of course, John is probably thinking, oh my God, I got to see Forte. And then Gosling and Rich saw John Hamm. So I know, I forgot about how powerful that Kristen one was. So for an SNL fan, yes. But the reason Maya gets it is performance. It was like, yes, we're acknowledging like the work to choreograph, to like time, like all the like fantastic, like shout out to like the whole team to like put everything together. But in terms of a show, in terms of electrifying you for the show, the cameos are electrifying and they get people excited, but it only gets you excited if you know who someone is. If you see Jake Gyllenhaal's face pop up, not everybody knows who Jake Gyllenhaal is. He might be just another one of the 40 famous white men, the famous like 40 pretty white men that we know. But, you know, you see a Gosling, you see a Forte, like that's going to excite a certain type of pop culture fan. But Maya specifically,
I love that you're arguing against a sketch that none of us have picked yet. You're
Oh,
arguing
yeah,
against
he
like, a
literally is
theoretical
out
90.
here. Wow. Like,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
you
Like,
are
wow.
already, and it's not even a debate. It's your pick, babes. You don't have
that's
to,
fine.
like,
I look,
you, like,
okay,
you don't
all
know
right.
for your decision.
Fair. I'm sorry, I get very passionate. I know, like Heather just texted me, I get very excited. But what I will say specifically, the reason I'm rooting for Maya, I do want to. The last thing I didn't get a chance to rewatch is like I was about to rewatch Io's monologue, and then something came up. That was the last thing I needed to review before I saw it. So I know I heard episodes up there for me, but I didn't get a chance to like add it to the running. So that's still a honorable mention, but I don't remember it. But Maya, the thing that really worked there was the performance. And in terms of like getting someone excited for the show, like I know the cold open, it's almost weird because the cold open, I feel like it's supposed to get you excited for the show, but it doesn't feel like it does that anymore. It feels like, doesn't it feel like for you guys that the show doesn't start until the monologues sometimes? Like, and I felt like the Maya, the Kristen Wiig, Sydney Sweeney, Adam Driver, Ryan Gosling, they got you excited in those monologues. And I feel like Maya, I was on fire. I felt like she electrified the room with that performance. How not static, but how like electrifying it was, powerful, fun. It was a good song, good flow. And so for me, I thought energy wise, I felt like it was the biggest heave of energy you could give to carry into the first sketch. That's why I think she deserves it.
That's totally fair. Rich, which monologue is getting your 90?
Well, I don't want to disappoint TJ and not pick Kristen Wiig, which I, up until that, coming out of Kristen Wiig, I would have thought she was probably the best because it was just so fun. And I've never felt so white saying this to you guys, but I got to go Ryan Gosling. I think that the Ryan Gosling was, and I'll tell you why I liked it. And I have Maya on my list. My thing for the Maya sketch is I will admit I did not exactly understand the reference the way that you guys do, which is why I like that TJ loves it more than I do, because that means that SNL is appealing to a broader base than just one specific demographic. I will also say for the Maya sketch, I thought it was great energy, great performance. Once we got into it, it for me was just more of the same. The Ryan Gosling for me was it continued to evolve and was much more fun. So I'm giving my 90 to Ryan Gosling, which is a sentence I never thought would come out of my mouth. And I just also want to just give a quick honorable mention, a forgotten. I think Adam Driver at the piano was just wonderful weirdness.
Yes.
It was just that almost Christopher Walken-esque playing into a character. But for me, it was Gosling.
Absolutely. Great picks there. I'm as basic as it gets. You won me over with the Kristen Wiig monologue.
I knew it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm going to say it. One of the greatest monologues in SNL history. Just putting it out there. I think it was so well done. It's exactly what this show was made for. Like, like the reverence for the show. You're just speaking to like a fan, and like
But it wasn't actually funny. It was so fun. It was so fun, but it wasn't actually
funny. Subjective, Rich.
Okay, fair enough.
Was it John?
Right.
John, was it funny or was it fun?
I don't care. It's to me like I'm you will never hear me on this show argue that a sketch is funny or not funny. That's not what I do. Like
It's
I don't
true.
I, like
Oh,
you,
sorry.
Yeah.
Funny to you or fun to you? My apologies. Yeah.
I mean, all of the above. Like it was everything I could have asked for from the show. Like, when you walk, the thing is like I live, breathe, and sleep Saturday Night Live. All I am thinking about from the moment that Kristen Wiig is announced is how are they going to induct her into the Five Timers Club? What are they going to do about this moment? How are they going to make it perfect? And they absolutely exceeded my expectations. They went outside the box. Instead, like every turn in that monologue was like, wait, what? And it was just great and fun and exciting. And it was like, look, I wasn't alive at the time when I saw the Tom Hanks monologue, but I've watched it back. And if you watch 15 seasons of Saturday Night Live and you get to that December of 1990 where Tom Hanks announces the club and he walks into that club and gets to see Elliot Gould and Steve Martin and John Lovitz come back and all this, like all these moments that are there. And it, to me, in the history of the show, it is the first moment where Saturday Night Live to me becomes what Saturday Night Live is today, which is an institution that has been around for generations that people have grown up with. And I think from that moment where you get to see cast members from different eras, hosts that you didn't expect, Lorne Michaels, like I think it is just a special moment and shows to me like why Kristen Wiig is a top cast member of all time. And then her episode was such a slam dunk after that, that I think it made the monologue look better in retrospect. So for me, like this is a no-brainer.
I would also like to add to that. I just love anytime SNL acknowledges Paula Pell's existence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I also really liked that, is because Paula Pell is, if you want to talk about like writer people, like she was always the heart of the writer's room. And so like to bring her back and acknowledge it, and shout out to Girls 5 Eva, one of the best shows no one is watching. I would give that too, for sure. Love that.
Okay, next category we're going to get into is live sketches. Obviously, this is the biggest category on the board here. There's more live sketches than any other category of sketch in season 49. So what I'll do is from the panel is give me like who you're going to give your 90 to and maybe one honorable mention, if that's okay. And, because again, like, we want to be able to move the show forward. So TJ, we will start with you this time. Which live sketch for you was 90 worthy?
Okay, I was gonna ask if like we could give like two, like a pick and then like one or two honorable mentions or something.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would say this was a tough toss up, and I'm not even saying that this was like the best, but I'm going with like what like did I enjoy the most. For me, I really enjoyed the beep beep sketch. I think it's so dumb. It's because I think I more enjoyed like the premise of it. And I enjoy kind of like the masculation of Andrew Dismukes. And like where that's a clear touch point in the journey. Which is him like getting to the fight, because it's funny. One of my honorable mentions is Jumanji, which I do think is a stronger sketch. So I might, to be honest, I think I might switch. The reason I kind of want to switch it, but the reason I'm having a tough time with it is I wonder if it's also recency bias. Actually, screw it. It's Jumanji. Jumanji's the one sketch I've gone back and watched multiple times. I've gone back and watched it multiple times. It's just funny to hear the Jumanji is a series of jungle emergencies. Like I just think it's a.
Yeah, I think. Well, we're still live.
Oh no, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought I heard like a noise in my bathroom. Okay, I'm sorry. That was live. Okay, sorry. Jumanji beep beep. And special shout out to Heidi's Trudy character.
Yes, and I will say, like, I think like we were talking about two of those sketches, Jumanji and Beep Beep. I think that those are like, if this is a real award show, like they're invited in person to like potentially collect their award. Like we're talking about some great sketches this season. Rich, for you, I know you're a big fan of live sketch comedy, so I would love to know who your picks are.
People are using fireworks. That's what's happening. I forgot it's
Yeah.
Memorial Day. People are using fireworks inside of my home. It's like,
That
what
would
the
make
hell is that noise? I'm sorry. Guys.
I picked for my favorite sketch was I was debating between two, and the two were Beep Beep and Jumanji. Those are my two favorite. And I'll tell you, and in my honorable mention, I've got the engagement and I've got the cookie sketch, and there's a really strong through line between all four of those sketches. I just want to get out, but here's what else. So I mean, everything that Tia just said, I thought that I'm still going to give it the Beep Beep as my favorite sketch from beginning to end. But all of those were great. From my two honorable mentions, I will say, from a writing of a sketch, the George Washington sketch from Nate Bargatze was probably my favorite written sketch.
Yes,
I would love to have seen Ryan Gosling or Adam Driver play that role of George Washington. I think it then might have been one of the best sketches of the year. And my other honorable mention is what can only happen on live television, the magic that cannot be manufactured in a pre-tape, is the Beavis and Butthead on News Nation.
Yep.
It was not the most well written. It was not the most well acted. It was just a visual sight gag, but the honest joy and laughter of them laughing through that, it was, you just cannot. It's not the same if you're watching a show that was taped in front of a live audience, edited, and shown a couple of days later. So that to me was just one of my favorite moments of a live TV sketch this year.
100%. Agree. Amanda, your picks for the live sketch award.
I feel like I'm just repeating what everyone else said.
Oh, wow.
I came onto this podcast.
But hey, isn't that cool that we all have
the night that it premiered? And
Which
I
one?
cried laughing, and John can attest to this, on this very podcast, which I have cried on more often than I did my own podcast when I had one. But I cried laughing at the Beavis and Butthead I said verbatim, that might be my favorite SNL sketch of all time. And I still maintain that. And I still think it to this day brings me to my knees when I just think about those stupid mangy faces. Shout out to the SNL costuming team. Bless them. They always, whenever they win an Emmy, they deserve it. They get the ultimate nightie of the year. The SNL production team. Shout out to them. Beavis and Butthead, yes, gets every pajama I own, okay? But not only that, Washington's speech, Jumanji, but also I also want to shout out the hypnotist sketch.
Yes. Sorry, I'm sorry.
The hypnotist sketch, which I still maintain was one of those right post-update sketches that could only exist post-update to be just kind of dumb in a vacuum. And I loved it. Also, there's that.
I just want to I have to second that, because like I actually, the honest note here is I'm glad like a lot of us said similar things, but actually when I was trying to think about it, the things that came to my mind without me going and re-looking at the sketch list, the second item was the school hypnotist sketch. And I didn't even know it was called that. I literally wrote the line, "Oh, I'm bisexual." Like whatever was that line that Io was shouting, "I'm bisexual," and was that. And honestly, on my list, like Io has 3 of my spots. Yep. Like it's the school hypnotist, the drugs on campus, when there's a thing she does, and it's one thing, you guys. She literally takes her roller backpack, flexes it like an uptight 8th grader, and then rolls out. And then the bad couple sketch where we realize that she's been cheating on her husband. Like Io for me had like strong, like she had like the ones that like came to my memory the most. But yeah, so shout out to her.
I agree with you guys. I mean, I think like, again, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, I think we're always going to remember Jumanji and Beep Beep and Washington's Dream. I think those are some of the, like, the moments where we're like, oh, wow, these sketches are fantastic. And then I think that, to Rich's point, the magic of live television with Beavis and Butthead, which I do think was, so exciting. It was like you had to be there moment. I think that's one of those things that, like, as all these articles are written about and videos made about that sketch, I think it's like a Debbie Downer moment, really, where like 20 years down the road, people are going to be like, where did you watch the Beavis and Butthead sketch live? Like, how did you feel about it at the time? Like, was it as hilarious as everyone is always saying it was?
Yeah.
Like, I think that, that's one of those things that's really important. I will say a lesser version of that, which I think needs to be talked about, is the ABBA Christmas sketch from the Kate episode, where you had
was also on my honorable mention list. Yeah.
Yeah, where you just had them all singing in each other's faces. And like that was the moment for me where I think Bowen, I'm going to say that Bowen was an underrated cast member a little bit this season, believe it or not. And I think that, that was a moment for me.
Tell me about it, John.
Yeah, I saw him with, 3 SNL legends with Kristen, Kate, and Maya just singing and having fun. And J was fantastic in that sketch as well. And it is a great time. And I just think there's a lot of other moments that overshadowed it, but I would say like honorable mention Nighty to ABBA Christmas.
We also had
yeah, go ahead.
We also, I think recency bias also, like, I think some of us, and I'm glad one of the commenters, one of the listeners just pointed out, Protective Mom 2, which was so early in the season. I think we just all not forgot about, but I think it's more just like, it's so far away. Like
that was me with Punky's telenovela sketch with the that was one of those things that I think was a big moment that I think people forgot about. So I think if we were going to do like a sleeper sketch of the season podcast, we could definitely get into it. But I want to continue on to the Nighty Award for pre-tapes this season, where again, the pre-tape department so incredible with the productions that they could put together, that they could just like within a matter of 2 or 3 days, these giant set pieces of music videos and, like, again, like the Scooby-Doo one they did last week, where everyone is just like the costuming, the makeup, like everything is just so amazing. The fact that Saturday Night Live could just like create these things out of thin air within a few days is fantastic. And I thought we had some really fun pre-tapes this year. So Rich, where's your head at on which pre-tape you'd want to award this year?
How do I pick between the regular pre-tapes, the commercial parodies, everything? Boy, I can't pick.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can we differentiate between PDD and pre-tapes? I feel like that would help make this a lot easier for some.
Yes, yeah, go for it.
John,
okay. Yeah, when I go to you, just tell me both though.
Yeah. So so my speed round, I'm gonna say PDD. I gotta go. The first one, the original Princess of Comedy, was so hilarious. That was great. I'm going to say quickly, my commercial parody Pongo from the Kate. I just thought the Pongo was so funny. But then of the general, I'm debating between 2. I'm going to go the home videos, watching the home videos from the otherwise lackluster Dakota Johnson episode was probably my favorite. I'm debating, but I'm going to go with that one. I think that was my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, that was a really interesting one there. It was fun. It was sort of like a Jerry Springer-esque type pre-tape.
Yeah.
That
there was
good.
Watching and the way that they were, the mom and dad were proud of how they had met and conceived of their son as the son is watching it. That to me was very funny.
That was good.
I'm gonna quickly say one honorable mention. Bowen Straight. I love.
Yeah,
I thought that was so funny. Anyway,
absolutely. Amanda, what about you for pre-tapes this season?
Shrimp Tower.
Shrimp
Tower.
No.
Shrimp Tower.
Okay.
Shrimp Tower.
Fight for it.
Shrimp Tower. Shrimp Tower. Shrimp Tower was so stupid. It haunted my dream. First of all, okay, so like I have to say this. I've discovered this season of SNL that I have finally been able to describe a type of humor that SNL sometimes leans into that is not my sense of humor. I don't like body gore humor. So like the Scooby-Doo sketch last week, that's my limit. That's my limit.
Yep.
That's not what my sense of humor is.
I'm with
you. Even like in the AO episode with the People's Court episode, like with the People's Court sketch, that's my limit. Like I can't. So like and so like
look away.
Whereas exactly, see, you're cracking up. I'm nauseous. Like I'm literally like it makes me ill. So and Jack Roscoff, friend of the podcast, I've texted. He was like, "You really hate body gore humor. I know you're gonna bring it up when you're on the show again." So I just have to say, I just think Shrimp Tower was my type of just dumb comedic super, super dumb timing. Yes, Bowen Straight is my sense of humor to the end, to the core. And also the Anomalous Man, I genuinely believe should get a shout out for both production. And even though John and I talked about this for a long time and disagreed about it, I thought when you get to the core of why that was funny, or if you understand, but if you try to really, it's a sketch worth examining. I would like to be in the college course that examines that sketch in a feminist lens. How about that?
Oh.
That's how I feel about that.
Nice.
And that to me is really, like, I mean, also I think you could really host or do an entire college course just about SNL and feminism, but like that's on me. But like this, I just think
you could do a podcast on it one day. You're welcome.
Slay. I'll get my sibling. I'll get all my books out from college. My gendered
Amanda, if you want to do
degree.
it, I'll hand you the keys to the car.
Oh,
So
yay! I will just.
Yeah.
You'll just like leave me here. And I'll just be here. Just,
Hollywood
like, 3
dish.
hours
What?
later, being like, why does she have a whiteboard? But yes, and I also the one from the Ramy Youssef episode, the PDD one. I think we got too high.
Oh,
I didn't love it, but I just want to give the shout out for the boys for doing a swing, for swinging and trying.
Yeah.
You know, and they really attempted something there, and I will give you credit for an attempt. You know,
TJ, your favorite pre-tapes from the season?
There's so many because they were so good. I'm not a body horror person myself. I don't like gore, but I do think that Scooby-Doo probably was one of the best pre-tapes. I said this because I was here last week. I think it's one of the best pre-tapes that we had of the 2020s. But like, I kind of already like made that point. I as much as I've been cracking on Dakota Johnson for the past like few months, and I will continue to do so. I saw Madam Web in theaters. And in that case,
you paid for the ability to do that. Like, that's different.
Hold on, man.
That's how I feel about my alma mater. I can make fun of my alma mater because I paid to make fun of it.
No, exactly. Thank you.
You paid to make fun about, yeah.
Exactly. I'm paid to make fun of it. And I'm also a fan of The Room. I like bad movies. So I went in joyous to see that train wreck and could not have been better. Was the delight. Sorry, pre-tapes. Thank you. Okay. So strong pre-tapes for me. As much as I've been cracking on Dakota Johnson, shit, home videos was really, really good. That was solid. And you know what? It's because she's an actress. And like, those are the strongest pieces of her episode, because there was also the roast with I forgot that's PDD. Yes. Actually. Yeah,
that was my runner-up for PDD. Yep.
That I think, because I'm glad Rich mentioned Original Princess, because that one for me that carried me, because I was a Def Jam comedy fan. So for me, that touched on a personal cultural touchstone for me. Roast also was really strong, but I think it played into that. I was like, like, it's kind of cool that Dakota Johnson's cracking on herself, but I also appreciated like the Nepo baby thing. What is it? A foot in the door and nothing more, or something like the Nepo truce or whatever. So I thought that was really fun. I think PDD, like, so Prince is cool. Roast, cool. I think people can agree on that. I think we all forgot about the AI sketch where Punky Johnson where Emma Stone was supposed to be in a PDD sketch, and then they had to replace her with Punky Johnson and put an Emma Stone AI face on her, where her and Martin fall in love. I'm sorry. I thought we were here to experience art, because they gave it to us. Also, special shout out to PDD.
I will say, TJ, I didn't forget about that one.
It was delightful. Also, special shout out to Shrek. But in terms of my favorite pre-tape, I really think I think it is probably Scooby-Doo, but without thinking about recency bias, it's either Subway Platform or Limu Emu, but I don't know if that was cut for time. Subway Platform, I think, was a really fun one that we got, which was like a sequel to the Waffle House. And special shout out to Battle of the Sexes as well. But Subway Platform would Scooby-Doo would get it. I'm sorry, it does. It gets it for me.
Yeah, I think a couple.
And PDD is roast. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. I mean, I think that a couple ones that I want to make sure that we shout out. I do think "Get That Boy Back" was such a good.
That was great.
I meant to mention
that was very good. Yeah, it was very good.
And Chris Stapleton.
That's what made me fall in love. That's when I fell in love with Chris Stapleton.
Yeah,
he was good.
Big
Yeah.
The
fan.
voice was fantastic. I think everybody played their part really well there. I think Chloe Troast, again, like it really, I was like, oh yeah, like, okay, this is what we've been missing, like more Troast. So I think that I was really pumped to see that on the show. Going back to the Bargatze episode, I think Lake Beach was another good music video.
That
With
was
JJ
another good country one.
and
Yeah.
and Andrew Dismukes. Like
Yep,
I
that was
I
on
like
it,
the.
yeah.
Two
You know,
good
like, we
country
went-
songs.
For sure, and we went for so many seasons where we were getting rap videos, and I'm fine. Like I'm cool with that. I like all types of music, but it felt like very samey. And I think that what we have here is like a little bit more like diversity in genre of music, and like you can play with things like that. So that's cool for me. I do think that, you know, looking back 10 or 15 years down the road, I think people are going to remember Bowen Strait as a sketch that is like very memorable from the season. The whole thing with him and Sydney Sweeney making out, like that's like just like you screen cap that. I think it's like, oh yeah, that was from season 49. So that's for sure. But if I'm going to give the nighty to anything, I think it has to be Pongo. Just one of the better commercial
Yeah,
parodies.
Pongo.
Yeah, truly, SNL does not do commercial parodies anymore because nobody watches commercials anymore. So it's not like we all know, like, oh yeah, that, like, you know, where's the beef lady? Like we all know her. Like that doesn't happen in 2024.
Oh yeah.
So I think, like, you know, that's for a very, very long time, for decades, SNL would wrap up the monologue by jumping into a commercial parody. We don't do that anymore. So the fact that we got one here, I think was really fun, almost pizza-esque. And I think that's one that I want to give my 92. Okay, let's talk about an update moment from this season. Could be a correspondent, could be a moment from Jost and Che here. I think it would be interesting to see how the panel feels about it. For me, at least, I know Weekend Update. I didn't hate Weekend Update this year. I didn't feel like there was much like upward momentum in anything. It sort of felt like very stagnant Weekend Update. Probably a couple peaks, some interesting correspondence, some attempts at some stuff. But Amanda, I'm going to start with you on this one. Update moment.
Okay, I have three because I really couldn't decide, honestly, because one of them, okay, stick with me on this one. Okay, Caitlin Clark.
Oh boy.
Caitlin Clark. Just Caitlin Clark. I think that was just a great way of the show referencing a long running joke of Michael Che making fun of the WNBA, and then also getting a chance to bring in not the face, one of the faces of the WNBA in a moment of time when people weren't necessarily going to be, people are finally talking about the WNBA. It's worth talking about because they're doing amazing. 2, CJ Rosatano, which is Sarah Sermon as Colin Jost, quote unquote, maybe or maybe not son. Fantastic performance. I just love the chemistry between Colin Jost and Sarah Sherman so much. I've gone on the record of how I feel about that man, and I think that I like him the most when she is around making fun of him, and that's because that's the way I would be too. And finally, and I didn't want to include this because I hate being like recency bias, but I actually think this has the ability to be a long running character, which is the woman who insists she's not mad, and because that was a recurring Weekend Update character that I can see being coming back once a year, not very often, but like Lisa from Temecula. Like, I think that this group of people, the one thing they are missing are these kind of core things we're going to come back to just in case we need a little clutch thing, and that might be Heidi's. So a very exciting time. I
didn't understand who that character was. I didn't relate to it. I don't have anyone like that in my life. But if you say it was funny, I bet that you're right. I bet it was very relatable.
Rich, you've never met somebody who was trying to pretend that they weren't mad?
I'm not mad.
I'm taking the fifth on that.
Please.
Is what I'm saying.
I thought you were 3 times older than me. I thought you were 90 years old, Rich.
I'm
you tell me
saying
you never met
I
one woman
experienced
who pretended she was not mad.
TJ's sarcasm
I have
radar
not
is really
experienced.
TJ,
I can appreciate that others have experienced it, and I bet they found it very.
I'm not saying
very
I've
funny.
ever been this person, but I can say I may or may not have been the problem in some of my former relationships.
Honestly, Rich does a great podcaster who is not sarcastic, and you should play that one.
Oh shit!
Not at all. Yeah, CJ, like that whooshed, it was like a boomerang. It whooshed and it came all the way back around and whooshed again. Like,
yeah. All right, well, TJ, redeem yourself with your update pick from the season.
Okay, so I guess like I don't even want to waste the spot because I think, you know, we can all say joke swap is a lot of fun this year. I think we can all agree on that. Okay, cool. So we're moving on. My 90 would, sorry, hold on. My honorable mentions would go towards was this season Heidi playing the character woman who loves her son too much?
No, I think that was
I think it was
last
48.
season.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. So I'm counting that out too. Then there was another Heidi character that was the woman who's aging gracefully. Not that strong of a piece, but visually, specifically, loved when she turns around and there's a bunch of like binder clips that are clipping her skin together. Horrifying, genuinely horrifying to see. I think Heidi is at like solid update pieces again. It's just not at like the rate that we expected, but I think she's been coming on and doing really great pieces. I think Longfellow as a cigarette who's trying to hit on the audience was also good. I hate smoking with a fucking passion. Like I can't stand it. I have a neighbor. I have like a balcony and like I have like a neighbor who lives right underneath me. I can't go out there for more than 20 minutes without him fucking smoking a cigarette. And like, just like, it's just like, oh God, I can't even enjoy my fucking outside. But like Longfellow as a cigarette, like was like the only time I've ever appreciated a cigarette. But my 90 would specifically go to rich auntie with no kids. And yes, as somebody who is, good God, this better not bite me in the ass, who is not planning to have kids. I am a big, I'm a big fan of the pointing out what these little tiny little monsters are, which is germy people with only ids and big ego. I mean, kids are cool a little bit too, but like, I really enjoy the rich auntie with no kids. Thoroughly enjoy it because I'm planning on becoming a rich uncle with no kids. So that spoke to me on an emotional level. So yeah, rich auntie with no kids.
I love that you brought that up. That was so great. Rich, which update feature or piece on update would you want to give your 92?
Yeah, I was debating because as someone in their 50s with no kids, we screamed in laughter at the rich
Yeah.
auntie. I thought it was great, so I'm torn between that and also of the Heidi's, because Heidi had a number of, the tarot card reader sketch I thought was really inventive, where the cards were specific to Michael Che. I thought that was great. I just related so much, and it wasn't the funniest, but Crystal, the coworker who is extremely busy doing nothing, boy, that spoke to me in a way it shouldn't have. I just thought that was so funny. I also love CJ Rossitano. I love Charlotte, the pregnant stingray. I thought that was another great Ego character. But to me, the coworker who is busy doing nothing, to me, was just such fun energy. Sort of left it. So I'm going to say that was mine. And it's already been said, but I'll say, and then the best, just the fact that it was live, to be there live was Caitlin Clark, was just such a great, perfect timing live moment.
Yeah, I think, TJ mentioned it briefly, but I will say that my favorite update moment from the season was the joke swap from Christmas, where Che brings out the activist, and then, just watching Colin's face the whole time, who genuinely live was not aware that this was going to occur, I think is like the magic of Saturday Night Live. And I look for those moments. I mentioned the Kristen Wiig monologue. To me, that was like esque of what, I watch for in this show. So I really love that. I think that there were some good update pieces. I don't think this was an amazing year for Weekend Update. I'll say specifically, I think like Colin Jost, Status Quo, like still does a fantastic job and will always be known as one of the greatest update anchors ever. I think Michael Che is absolutely brilliant and has the wit to, say things that nobody else is willing to say, especially nowadays. Rewatching some of Norm Macdonald's weekend updates for the Everything You Need to Know project that we're working on over here, that will be coming out over the summer. I'm just sitting at home sometimes watching Michael Che and just wishing that he would just stare down the audience through the camera after he would say some of the things he's saying, because he has the ability to just really bite hard and oftentimes will cross out a joke or say, this wasn't a good thing for me. And it's sort of a new thing over the last couple of years that I think does take away from my enjoyment personally of Weekend Update. But hopefully it's a little bit of a course correction for next year, because we know we're going to have them back in 50 and that might be it for them.
Special shout out to Michael Che for one joke. There was like update for me has been solid and reliable. Like I enjoyed it. I don't think it was like the greatest, but it's definitely on like the upper 50 percentile or whatever. But there is a joke that was told at the end of the season, and this isn't even recency bias. This is because it's the only joke this entire season that got this. But there was a joke that literally had me on the floor, and not even expressively. I was with my 4 friends. This was literally because Michael Che and I share a birthday, May 19th. So it's literally the day before my birthday. I've just like finished celebrating it with my friends. They're watching SNL with me as like a part of like to celebrate my birthday. Very kind and sweet of them. And while I don't endorse this thing in real life, the joke hit me in a way, and I expressed this I think it was last week, but there was a joke during the joke swap where it was talking about like whoever the people are, they're going around like punching women in New York City, and then Michael Chase specifically says, well, like, move bitch, get the, like, he says it about like, move bitch, like, get out my way or whatever. I don't know why. I cannot understand it, but it hit me like a lightning bolt, and I fell down howling. And I just, for me, that was like a strong piece for like update. I don't know why that one cracked me up. I'm not going around New York City punching women. I don't know why that joke specifically, but for some reason, just somebody, I think I know what it was. There's a old TikTok of like, a woman being like, I got my iced coffee, got this. And this black dude was just walking by. He's like, move, bitch, get out of my way. It's Black History Month. And it reminded me of that. And that's been making me laugh for years. And so I just, that joke specifically, it just spoke to me for some reason. I don't know.
All right, let's rapid fire a little bit as we wrap up the rest of our award show. So, Rich, it's not a category we're going to go to every panelist on, but I know you like to talk about 10-to-1 sketches. For those who don't know, this is the last sketch we made, so I'll just ask you. Yeah,
I love me the 10-to-1 sketches. There's so many good sketches. For me, I don't even think this got mentioned when it was on, but most recently from the Maya Rudolph, the Lanzetti lawn care, where you can hire lawn workers who will not sleep with your wife, I thought was so funny. And the reasons the different guys would not be attractive to your wife, it was such a great use of that kind of beta. It was just so funny. So of all of them, and there were a couple that really made me laugh, like Tiny Ass Bag and a couple others, but that to me was such a fun sketch. That was my favorite last sketch of the night.
Okay, we're going to do 3 more. So we'll do this really, really rapid fire. So I just want one answer from all of you. Who is your host nighty of the season? So we're going to pick one person as the host nighty. Amanda, starting with you.
Host?
Yeah, host. Not episode, but host. Like if you pick somebody who hosts the season. Edebiri? Okay.
Yes, they're that.
All right. TJ, host of the season.
Edebiri as well, but can we also add musical guest in like least favorite piece as a segment too? We can do that in like a rapid fire too, but
yeah, we'll do a rapid fire at the end. Yeah. Okay. Rich, your host.
Edebiri.
I'm going to go Ryan Gosling. I thought it was I thought he was strong, and I thought he was my favorite.
Yeah. I think a couple of different ways to look at this. Unexpected for me was Josh Brolin, who really came in, and I think
he was good.
Pivoted the season in a different direction. So in a way, I almost feel like I have to give it to him. As far as new host of the season, I think Bargatze for me was fantastic. Also, Io, great host, not as great of an episode, and that's where I want to go next. I want to talk about.
Excuse me, whoa, sir.
This for me, but she was fantastic, not her fault. But I do want to talk about episode of the season. So we did run this poll on social media where we did ask people what their favorite episodes were of season 49. So what is the episode of the year for you, TJ?
I will say I always in my second place for episodes, but first place would be Kate with Billy, because I went back and watched that a second time because Heather hadn't seen it and I knew she would love it. And it was a Christmas show. Billie Eilish is an incredible performer. So I feel like the whole piece of it, that felt like a really great full meal rather than, hey, let me show you like 1 or 2 sketches on YouTube. So I'll say Kate with Billy was probably the best episode, like altogether.
Rich, what was the best episode of season 49?
For me, it's always hard because the question is, am I judging which episode had the highest number of great sketches or which episode just had the best batting average of good sketches? I'm going to go a little contrary. I'm going to pick one that just because I don't think it will get mentioned. I think for me personally, it was the Adam Drivers. I think the Adam Driver was my favorite all around episode, even though there's a couple that I could argue against that, but I'm going to pick Adam Driver knowing no one else will.
Okay. Amanda.
Good episode.
I know your thoughts.
Gosling
Yeah.
with Wiig as a quick number 2. Like it's a 51-49 situation. Like it's but it's
Gosling was my number 2. I was debating that was so good. Yeah.
This was one of Wig's best episodes. I personally think, like, especially since we didn't see Secret Word.
Look, I put her in when we did a countdown in the fall of the great cast members of all time, I put her in my Mount Rushmore. There was a little bit of debate about where she really belongs on the list. I do factor in contributions after your cast member to the overall show. I think coming in and hosting potentially the best episode of the season to me is another stamp on her incredible resume at Saturday Night Live. So to me, Kristen Wiig would get my vote on that one. I think Nate Bargatze is a close second for me, whose episode was just fantastic. But to me, Kristen Wiig's episode could be a top 50 episode of all time, in my opinion. But let's see what the listeners thought, because we did put up this poll and we asked our podcasters to contribute to this one. We asked the listeners as well. So here are the rankings for season 49 episodes this season. And Kristen Wiig did get that number 1 spot from all the votes. So Kristen Wiig number 1, Nate Bargatze number 2, Ryan Gosling number 3, the driver episode, which you mentioned, number 4, which is an interesting point. Josh Brolin comes in at number 5. So those are the top 5 episodes of the season: Wiig, Bargatze, Gosling, driver, and Brolin, according to the voters. I'll go through 6 through 20 very quickly, which is Kate, Gyllenhaal, Timothee Chalamet, Maya Rudolph, Edebiri rounds at the top 10. Then we got Pete Davidson, Emma Stone, Bad Bunny, Sydney Sweeney, Shane Gillis, Ramy Youssef, Jason Momoa, Dakota Johnson, Dua Lipa, and then Jacob Elordi last on this list. Rich, any thoughts on how the listeners voted for the top 20 episodes of the season in their order?
Looking at the positives, not the negatives. I mean, these were top 10. They're all really great. I could argue a lot of this. So makes sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. TJ, do you want to talk about musical guests for a second before we get to the MVP voting?
Yeah, so I noticed a big shift, and this is more musically speaking. I feel like hip hop has had a really great hold on popular culture, especially since like 2016. But I feel like there is a shift right now more towards pop, and so I don't think we saw as many like rappers. Like, I know we had 21 Savage and Travis Scott, but like, if I'm being honest, I think rappers just aren't. Except for me, I hate to say it, but like, I don't think rappers do well live on SNL, like, because it's just like a backing track. I don't think it fits well, and it sucks because I'm so excited to see them, but it just doesn't. Like 21 Savage was terrible. Like I love 21 Savage, but that was a terrible SNL performance. But for me, I think Billie Eilish, Renee Rapp, controversial. I think this is. I think Justin Timberlake. I think they all get great performances. I think we all thought Ray did incredible, and I think it kind of was a flash in the pan we all kind of forgot about because of how good that Kristen Wiig episode was. But I feel like Ray also kept the energy going in that show with how incredible of a performance that she gave. And also a special shout out to Casey Musgraves. Done the show 3 times. I think she's a solid, reliable performer, great artist. So shout out to her. Dua Lipa, Vampire Weekend. But it was interesting kind of like seeing like the culture shifting away a little bit from hip hop right now, kind of seeing what's going to fill sort of that. But also Chris Stapleton. I don't like country music, but I thought he did well, and he won me over with that sketch as well too. So, very good vocalist, but I thought we saw some really cool vocal talent. And so a lot of fun in these performances, except for that weird thing Olivia Rodrigo did where she dressed as a little girl and like did a tantrum on the table. That was odd, but I don't know if anyone else. But interesting performances.
I
like some of the album. I like some of the album, but that was.
It was for me. I thought that was awesome.
American Bitch is not for you. Yeah, no.
I thought that was awesome.
I liked the song. I like that song. I like Bad Idea, right? But anything about a grown woman dressing up like a little girl is creepy to me.
No, but I don't mean it that way. But I'm saying to me, the performance was a little bit of like Halsey painting. Like it was just cool. Like it was like I thought that the production was really sick. So, Rich, what about you, musical guests? I know you like to think about this as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, everyone you guys mentioned, to me, my favorite thing is to see someone SNL I didn't even know existed. And in that category, I would say Noah Khan was probably my favorite find, with Ray up there too. It's just I didn't know them, and so that was really fun. A lot of great performances. My personal wish for 50, just for 50, is go back to people standing on the stage playing music. And for 50, let's go back to what SNL did great and not do. And I actually thought Olivia Rodrigo was great, but go back to bands playing music, not doing musical performances just for 50, not doing big conceptual pieces. That would be my wish. But a good season overall. Everyone was great.
I feel like you then like are living out missing out on a huge like piece of like what music like is if you only have bands right now. Like,
I don't mean it could be a singer, but just I'm saying not having the visual, which has been great. But like as you said,
the pomp and circumstance. He wants just people on stage performing. He doesn't need a whole.
So have Olivia Rodrigo. The way Olivia Rodrigo did Vampire at the piano to me is much more interesting than her doing a big production with a table and set pieces and breakaway glass and stuff, which it was actually very good. Because for 50, I'd love to see it like it was season 1, which is great music transcends and doesn't need set pieces to make it better. And I understand there's a place for it. I grew up in the era of music videos, so I'm not taking away from it, but for SNL, to me, a person or a band on stage just singing their fucking heart out to a live audience on live television is watered down by a performance of video and artifice for me. But that's just one opinion.
It'll really depend on the artist, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I don't know if Leanne Lawrence going to dictate that. Like, I'd be curious to see if that could be.
It won't happen.
Yeah.
It won't happen.
Huge shout out to Ray, who I think
absolutely
really like took the SNL community by storm. People seem to love her on the show. She was great. I have 2 musical guests that just really appealed to me. Obviously, Chris Stapleton, I'm a huge fan of, so that was awesome. And I know, not for everybody, but getting Justin Timberlake to come back on the show was
good on the show. Like it was a good performance.
It meant it really meant a lot to me. So just I know people had their feelings, but I was happy to see him there. Okay, Amanda, did you have any music thoughts, or are you good?
No, just that I was right about Ray when she was announced, and I was like, y'all gonna love her, and I was right.
You were right for sure. Yeah, TJ, I don't really want to do least favorite stuff because I think we're good if that's okay. I want to talk about MVP from the season. So every single week on our Monday roundtables during the regular season, I ask for the MVP of the week, the person who you pluck them out of the episode is worse for it. And I want to know who the MVP is of season 49 from our cast members. So we did put up the poll on social media. So I can ask you, generally I'll ask our panelists, who they think the audience voted for. But this time, since we're doing our award show, let me ask you for who, a couple honorable mentions and who your nighty MVP is for season 49. Rich, we're going to start with you.
For me, it's a no-brainer. If you had told me in Andrew Dismuke's, first season as a featured player that I'd pick him as an MVP, I'd say I got hit in the head because I just didn't get it. But probably 4 of my favorite sketches were him. So for me, it's clearly Dismukes as the MVP.
Amanda?
Okay, first of all, I have to give what I am now dubbing the Amanda Mitchell Award for syllabic excellence.
Syllabic, like they have. Sounds like you said. Sorry,
I said syllabic for syllabic excellence to Ego Nwodum for her incredible flexibility and agility to take English language words and make them sound different. A for
the sit down thing.
Like sit down. There was just so many. She deserves an award for syllabic excellence. That woman understands linguistics. Thank you. She deserves an award for a linguistics award. That's what I'm saying, But yes, I cannot believe I'm going to give this many props to a white man. But I'm going to give this many props to.
Aren't you dating a white man?
Yes. And I don't give him props.
I'm also dating a white woman. We both like white people, so
I don't give him props.
All right, I want to hear.
Give him a little bit of props. Like we both date white people. Like
I don't know. I'm not nice to him.
I want to hear.
I'm not nice to him. But
I feel like we're going to be podcasting until the premiere of season 50. We're just not going to stop talking.
I just want to say we started this episode with TJ, long-winded, never-ending story. TJ saying he wants to stop sitting down in his chair. So I'm trying to get out of here before Kingdom come. Literally.
Who's your
Oh,
MVP?
Amanda, I'm not pointing the
I'm
finger
actually
your
not going
way.
to give it to Andrew Dismukes anymore. I'm going to change my mind, and I'm going to give it to James Austin Johnson, another white man I do not want to give credit to, but I love him. And I think he is very good at what he does. And I'm glad that allowing him to do more fun things this season. My other honorable mention, Sarah Sherman, because I think that she is just everything to me this season. And yeah, I got on my high horse and I'm getting off of it. Goodbye,
Okay.
Secretariat.
TJ, your MVP of season 49. Who is it?
I'm
Don't
not
be
gonna
quiet.
apologize for loving the show, but whatever.
Don't, we love you. Who's your MVP?
Whatever. Yeah, it is a no-brainer that it's Dismukes with. I think JJ is a strong second, and this is because one of the big themes for me was that I didn't mention, but was cast specific, is that I think diversity of JJ's characters got even stronger in this season.
Yeah.
Not just with his voice, but also just with what he's able to step into. He's not just doing that old-timey character or a politician. I feel like we saw him like all across, and I feel like he became a better utility player this season. So I think he got a really fantastic growth as a performer this season specifically, while Dismukes was getting a little more of the star. But I do wonder if a little bit more Dismukes' star goes towards comedy fans rather than like a breakout, like when you have a Sydney Sweeney host. Like, will we see Dismukes being a big like, I don't know if we will see him like an Andy Samberg where he's kind of a pioneer. Like I wonder, like Dismukes is still on the rise, but we've seen him cement and kind of find his footing and his placement. But is this something that's more like, oh, we as SNL fans know this guy is great, or will the greater world also acknowledge that as well? Which I think it'll be an interesting thing to watch in his journey.
Yeah, we got to talk to Andrew Dismukes earlier this season, back in January, so that was a really fun interview to get to catch up with him. We are tentatively set to talk to James Austin Johnson next week and have an interview with him on the podcast. So I'm looking forward to catching up with him about his season 49. So another potential MVP, in the running there for sure. For me, it is Andrew Dismukes. I do think, this was their season. You really pull them out. And then I think the show is in much more flux, but they did some really great things here. There's somebody else who, when I revealed the voting, I think was an interesting pick for MVP voting. So I'm going to reveal the top 5. We had hundreds of people vote today for their MVP of season 49. It's
Marcelo.
Yeah, that's who we're going to talk about here with Marcelo Hernandez voted 24%.
I did not see that coming.
It's Marcelo. It has to be.
Yeah, 24% of the vote goes to Marcelo Hernandez from the audience for season 49 MVP voting. And of course, we have, different ranges of SNL audience members, including, casuals to superfans. And I think Marcelo clearly, obviously was, had the greatest season of all the featured players. We didn't get to talk about him too much, but getting his voice on the show and, the immigrant dad talk show that he did in the Ramy Youssef episode, obviously a very big moment, and it's going to continue to propel him forward. But yeah, clearly well-deserving of MVP votes. I don't know if he's my MVP award, but he did come in first place on this poll with 24% of the votes. Ego came in second with 14% of the votes. Sarah Sherman, 11% of the vote. Andrew Dismukes, my MVP, and some of ours as well, 10% of the vote there at 4, and Bowen Yang, 9% of the votes. So it is very interesting here because, again, like I said, Marcelo has a big online following, so it is possible that they'd vote in this. But I do think he is. It's not a stretch. I can squint my eyes and I could see why Marcelo is an MVP. And I could also see him very well deserving of being an MVP in years to come. Rich, your thoughts on that?
I would agree with that because, when you're right, we didn't discuss a lot of his, he is someone who has both been in a lot of really good sketches and really delivered. He's very charismatic, but also he's one of the few cast members who's still appearing on Weekend Update as himself. And he's very likable, he's very vulnerable, and he's very funny. So I think that, when you're like, that name recognition goes really far. I think we forget that 49 years in, that being able to say, and now on Weekend Update is Marcelo Hernandez to talk about ... that goes really far, and he kills it every time. So I'm not I wouldn't have thought it, but now that you showed it, I was not surprised, even though not like Amanda, I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, he is like the resident young person on the show that has Yeah, but I don't think it's just that. I will say, like, not to take anything away from him, I think on the show he is crushing it. He's doing a great job.
A hop. Yeah. This is a hop, leap, and like a skip and a jump. Stay with me here. But he's the Kendall Roy of SNL right now. He's baby, but he's baby boy. He's baby boy. Yeah. Like he's baby boy. Like there's in terms of just he's ineffable in terms of like the why people love him. Like it's ineffable. You cannot describe it. But he's baby boy.
He's so much more likable than Kendall Roy is.
Yeah, like, but that's why I said
I think he's gonna have
he's got a big fan base. People love him. Like it's sure. More. It's not about I'm not saying he's like Kendall Roy literally. I'm saying in terms of like the way people talk about him. It's like that's baby boy Marcelo Hernandez. He is the young.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I get what you mean. Okay. Thank you for explaining.
And where Andrew Dismukes and James Austin Johnson might be a little bit more like under the radar. Like you really have to like watch the show every single episode to see like their contributions and understand how great they are. Marcelo definitely brings it, but I also think he has the mainstream appeal. Like he walked in with one of the largest followings ever as an SNL cast member, and I think people get very excited to see him on the show, get to share his stuff, and I think it's great. Like no matter, like for me, he's gonna be on the show, and no matter what happens on the show, he's gonna go off and he's gonna have a fantastic career. So I am excited to see if he's gonna continue to get his voice on the show further, and how much the show will continue to push him as the star of the show when he inevitably could possibly be bumped up to repertory player next year. Because yeah, that's what we're looking forward to now. Our last thing we're doing tonight is just a quick look ahead to season 50. Obviously, we're going to be talking about this over the summer in our preseason next year, a few months away. But to close the book on season 49, Rich Tackenberg, I got to ask you, what are you most looking forward to in season 50? And any final thoughts from you?
You know, I will say my expectation of season 50 is it will look just like every other season of SNL with one huge celebration in the middle. I think that there's going to be, you know, most people on SNL are going to have two jobs next year. They're going to be producing Saturday Night Live, and they're going to be writing and producing the 50th anniversary, for which it will be almost impossible to meet the expectations that are in my head. So I think it's a Herculean job. I think season 50 will be a safe season in. I'd be surprised if we let go of anybody. I think it's going to be a very like, let's just keep it going. Let's just keep what works. Let's not change much. Let's focus on the fundamentals, and let's put all of our effort on the special.
Amanda, your thoughts on season 50?
I hope that they don't act like it's a big deal whatsoever. I hope that they just are like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure the NBC marketing department will go along with that idea.
Hey,
sure. Yeah,
I would love it if they were like, what, like, okay, why is that a big deal? Like whatever we do, this is every, like, yeah, let the NBC marketing people make a big deal about the 50th anniversary. That's not my job. My job is to make good comedy. My job is to show up every week and make sure that I do my job properly. That's what I think. It's just like, just make good television. It doesn't matter if it's a landmark season. Make a good season of television. Don't I think especially, I mean, since 2019 and 2020, we have seen seasons of SNL where they are just trying to catch up. Last season, like we haven't had a quote unquote normal season of Saturday Night Live since 2019. Just because of just external factors and the things happening in the world. So for 50 to be the quote unquote return to normalcy is really actually frightening and puts in another additional level of, I mean, every day I would be having a panic attack, throwing up, screaming and crying in the bathroom, because it's just it would be a lot of just pressure to deal with. But I think if right now they're working with they don't have a writer's strike to deal with. They're going to be milking these people for content. And I worry that because it's such a big deal and they're asking them to do X, Y, and Z and so much, that what's going to suffer, what's going to give. And I don't want the show to suffer because we're dealing with the pressure of 50th anniversary. We're almost 5 years out post-COVID. We're back to normal. We have a full episode count. We're going to do the whole thing. It's like, guys, like, I want us to just make a season of television. And that's, if it's good, it's good. But let the 50th anniversary special be what it is, and then just go back to work.
TJ, your thoughts on 50?
Oh wow, that's a lot to follow. I just want to laugh and have a good time. I get excited when like there's an episode of SNL. I'll say like one thing that would just be really cool is like I would love to see just like this be another season like this one of like excellent like hosting picks, host like bookings. I like that's something that I hate to say that, but that is something I would, not an expectation, but that's more of a desire, is excellent hosting picks. And then two, what I think would be really cool is if you just had this almost like, I feel like it'd be a little harder to juggle having too many performers. Like I think cameos would be really cool, but I think it'd be really dope to maybe have some of the like old writers come back and see some like references to things throughout the show. Maybe each episode has a little reference to, like, we haven't had a Black Jeopardy in a while. We might maybe see like another Mr. Robinson. Like, I don't know, just have little like cultural touchstones. Maybe each episode of like the 2021 references something, from these 50 years. And like, yes, in the 50-year show special, you can reference that. You can. But this is a big hallmark. And maybe if there's like a little bit of love shown to the history of the show each year. I mean, each episode, I think that could also be a little fun too for them. But I think they're going to just make it like a regular episode, like a regular season of TV. Yeah,
it will certainly be interesting. We will be there to cover it all the way through and more. We're going to have so much fun here on the podcast. My thought on 50 overall is that, I sort of see what everybody here is saying. However, the 3-hour special that they're doing in February plus Radio City Music Hall on Friday is still not enough to properly celebrate Saturday Night Live in its 50th history, and its 50th anniversary history. To me, I think that, I know that special will probably be written within the week before the special, but if there's moments, sketches, people that maybe we don't have time to incorporate properly into that special because every year there's more and more of them, then sprinkle them in throughout the year. Like we're not going to get every single recurring sketch to appear in those 3 hours. And I think that like, if you have the opportunity, pick your spots. But I think that every episode should try their best to feel special next year. So
put that pressure. If you're listening, SNL, don't listen to John. Don't listen to John. You'll screw it up. Screw it up. That's
also
like
SNL
saying
people,
this has got to be the best
to
night of sex you've ever had. Just whatever you do, make it the best night of sex you've ever had. Don't
What's
do
wrong
that
with
to them.
this expectation that
it's too much. It's too much. Just do a
you
great
know
show.
what they should treat it at? They should treat it like, no, that's too dirty. Never mind.
Let's before we get to down wrap.
I'm mostly just excited to see all them head writers getting in the same room and who's going to be fighting. I want cameras in the room.
There's going to be so much to talk about. We're going to be there for all of it. So let me tell you what's coming up here as we close the book on tonight's marathon or postseason roundtable, which is, if you think tonight's show was long, join us on Wednesday, because we're going to be here for the postseason by the numbers show, where myself, Mike Murray, and Bill Kenny, we're going to go through every single cast member's statistics from this season and talk through each of their seasons. It is going to be so much fun. I love doing the show, but it is a journey. So you'll have to
listen to every second of that.
Yeah, it's
every second.
Thanks, TJ. I love it. We're going to get into it all on Wednesday night. So you got to join us for that one. Then next week on Monday night in this time slot, we're going to have our final feedback show of the season. I'll be there with Sammy K and a bunch of our patrons to wrap up the season. If you have questions for the show, anything you want to talk about from season 49, we're going to put out a forum next weekend. Send them in. We'll get your questions into the show. We're going to answer them next Monday night. And then in 10 days from now, next Thursday, it is the premiere of everything you need to know about Saturday Night Live, our new video series we're working on here at the SNN that will launch and be out on Thursdays this summer, where we will recap every season of the show. So as you get ready for this anniversary season, go back and check out these episodes, because it'll catch you up on each season. It's a lot of fun. It's something we've been working very hard on, and I'm looking forward to sharing that all with you. Of course, like I said, we might have some interviews along the way. That'll be great, and other fun things popping up throughout the summer, including our countdown of the greatest hosts of all time, which will begin June 10th right here on the SNN. So much happening here, Rich. I feel bad you're going to miss it all because you're hibernating throughout the summer, but I'm looking forward to catching up with you in season 50. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Great doing it.
Yeah, for sure. Anything you want to say to the listeners for the summer?
Nope. Let's set our expectations, and let's just get looking forward to another great year of SNL.
Absolutely. Amanda, thank you for joining us tonight. Anything that you would like to say to the listeners?
Guys, thanks for listening to my dumb voice. Also, I have been here almost every Monday for the month of May. So I think Jon needs a break from me personally. He's too polite to ever say that, so I'm going to be nice enough to say it out loud. I'm always happy to be here, but like whatever. Thank you always for having me. I will see you guys in September, I guess, or October. I don't know. I'm busy. Well, I'll see you again around the corner. Also, be nice to each other, guys. It's really horrible on the internet now, so be nice to each other. Don't be mean. Just be nice to each other. Just a general advice: be nice to everybody and be nice. And we own this podcast and we bicker and chat, but don't take our opinions and go on the internet and be mean to other people. I don't condone that. So be nice to each other.
One thing I love about the SNL community is that we're all very nice people. So let's continue to be that way. TJ, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Such a pleasure. Hope your ass is doing okay in that chair after 2.5 hours. So thank you. And anything you would like to say to listeners as we depart tonight?
Yeah, listeners, first of all, thank you very much for listening to this long trek. I know that my castmates here do hate me a little bit because I am very long-winded, but I really do mean well, and I really just enjoy doing this. I don't know. I feel very hatred. I feel very targeted right now. Amanda's talking about white people, and I feel mixed about them in general, but I have a white woman I love very much. She's my whole world. Sorry, but I have a 15-ish minute podcast called Rabbit Trail. That's RABID. That you can find wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also reach out to us at wearerabbittrail@gmail.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at We Are Rabbit Trail. This last week, we talked about boy bands, where I was shocked to learn that the Beatles were considered a boy band technically. I was talking more about the Joe Bros, the New Kids on the Block, but it's just four fellas talking about a bunch of fellas getting on stage dancing to fun music. And I also announced on the SNL Network last week, and have an announcement coming up on my own podcast in a few weeks, but I will be ending Rabbit Trail. My host and I get along great. We're all still wonderful friends. There's nothing there, but literally it was as simplistic as last year. I was like, I kind of wanted to come to a close, and I thought 150 was a good number. So I didn't realize at the time when I said that meant 40 more episodes, and it's really hard to say you want to finish something and then do 40 more of it. But 150 is just a good number. That's literally all it is, and I'm very proud because the stats like 90% of podcasts never make it past episode 3. So to have done a podcast that was just me talking with my friends, I'm very proud about. So you can listen to us at Rabbit Trail. Again, that's RABID. You can find me, TJ, at King Compliment on Instagram.
Yeah, great job, TJ. And seriously, shout out to all the people who are here with us live in the chat all night. Like, so cool getting to see all your thoughts. Like, really, really thankful. Also want to shout out
Victor, you're not 17. Sorry, he said that like an hour and a half ago. And it was like, there's no way he's 17.
Well, I just want to shout out everybody who's here, and also, everyone who's did coverage on season 49. Like, I can attest like how much of a marathon it is to get through the season. So to all the other podcasts that get to cover the show, like, love you guys, respect you, and happy to be in this industry with all of you, all the recappers, and all the that we get to talk to from like different publications online and write the recaps and stuff. Like, it's really difficult to put your opinion out there. All of we have bloggers, we have patrons who are bloggers. To put your opinion about the show is not easy for the public. So sincerely, like, whether you're just a casual watcher of the show or a super fan, like, just so happy to be here to talk about Saturday Night Live with you, and I look forward to continuing to do that as we go on. So if you want to find everything we're doing, you can follow us at the SNL Network. We're going to be posting a bunch of stuff about the season, including all those statistics charts on our social platforms. So you can follow us Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at the SNL Network. You can also subscribe to the podcast, and please do at YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Leave us a review, comment on our videos, give us a thumbs up to just let us know that you're here and that you enjoy, or maybe what you didn't, and we love to get that feedback. So always appreciate that. All right, on this Monday night to close the book on season 49, on behalf of Rich Tackenberg, Amanda Mitchell, and TJ Randolph, my name is Jon Schneider from the Saturday Night Network. We want to thank LateNighter.com for being our presenting partner of tonight's show. We will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.